Chapter 323. Was it really what she thought? When Tang Bao thought of this possibility, she couldn't hold back the smile on her face. Her fair face was flushed red, as if it had been dyed by the color of the roses. It was stunning and eye-catching. Just as Tang Bao was concentrating on the roses, her body was wrapped from behind. She was stunned. She turned her small face slightly and found that it was Di Haotian. She said, "I thought it was Zhongli. I was wondering why he hugged me all of a sudden." "Can't you feel the difference between our figures?" Di Haotian narrowed his black eyes and said in a threatening voice, "This. I didn't notice." Tang Bao found that Zhongli was no longer there. She didn't know when he left. "It's because there are too few of you." Tang Bao immediately turned to face Di Haotian and said in a dissatisfied tone, "How can that be called too few? I'm always like this when I go down the stairs. What else do you want me to do? Until you can guess it's me." Tang Bao didn't want to talk about this topic with Di Haotian. She felt that Di Haotian was a bully, domineering, and unreasonable. Thinking of the roses behind her, she asked, "Why did you plant these roses? They're more pleasing to the eye than the full moon star." "Is that the only reason?" Tang Bao asked hesitantly. "Yes. Don't you know that there's another meaning to the rose?" "What meaning?" It's a gift between couples. It represents love," Tang Bao said. Di Haotian's black eyes were deep. "Now I know." Tang Bao was infuriated. In other words, the flowers Di Haotian planted just happened to be roses? It had nothing to do with love? He just planted them casually? "Bao, you seem to be very angry." Di Haotian pretended to be puzzled. You can ask someone to pull out all these roses again." Tang Bao wanted to hit him with a brick. She was so angry. "Why? They're an eyesore. How could this be?" "Yes, I will." Tang Bao threw a tantrum. His little face was red, and he almost stomped his feet in front of Di Haotian. "All right, I'll get someone to pull it out." "Men." Di Haotian's voice deepened. Tang Bao did not expect Di Haotian to really let him pull it out. When he saw He Ju walking behind him, he immediately stopped him. "I don't want to pull it out anymore. Didn't you say it was an eyesore? Then I'll get someone to pull out all of them." "No. Now, I feel that these roses are not that much of an eyesore. Anyway, once they are pulled out, they will become bare. Without flowers in the middle of winter, there will be no scenery at all." Tang Bao found an excuse and said, "Are you sure?" "Yes, yes." "Keep it, then," said Di Haotian. He Ju went down. Tang Bao's heart was simply filled with unspeakable bitterness. She knew that Di Haotian did not plant the roses for love, but she still could not bear to pull them out. The throbbing feeling she had when she saw the roses, although it seemed like a joke now, at least it had existed. Therefore, it was true that she could not bear to pull them out. Her mood must be good when she saw them. "Are you happy?" Di Haotian asked. "Yes." "Smile." Di Haotian requested. Tang Bao was extremely depressed. How could he still laugh? She glared at Di Haotian. Di Haotian had a cold expression on his face. "Then I'll have to get someone to pull out these roses." "No. I'll just smile." Tang Bao gritted his teeth at Di Haotian. Under Di Haotian's demon-like pressure, the corners of his mouth lifted, but there was no smile in his eyes. This was the so-called fake smile. Di Haotian looked at her. She was obviously very angry, but she was forced to smile like a pitiful little girl. It was really cute. Tang Bao's breath stopped. Zhongli hurried over. When she saw the entangled people in the distance, she immediately lowered her head in fear. Di Haotian's long and narrow black eyes flashed sharply. "Young master, old madam is here." Zhongli knew that she had come at the wrong time and was very frightened. After saying that, she ran away. Tang Bao lowered her head, breathing quickly. She really could not raise her head when someone saw this. Tang Bao's heart beat faster under his gaze. "You can't take it any more?" Di Haotian asked wickedly. Tang Bao flew into a rage out of humiliation. It made her frown in dissatisfaction. She glared at Di Haotian weakly with her watery eyes and said with a red face, "Didn't you hear Zhongli? My mother-in-law, your mother is here." Di Haotian's black eyes were gentle and deep. Then, he put his hand on her shoulder. It was really unbelievably delicate. With just a pinch, it turned red. Di Haotian clicked his tongue, suppressed the thoughts in his mind, and said, "Let's go." Yu Songhuan was sitting in the hall. The servant had already served her tea. She drank it while waiting for Di Haotian. She was almost finished drinking the tea when she saw the figure walking in. She glanced at Tang Bao's flat stomach and then looked away. "How long have I been waiting for you?" Yu Songhuan had the intention to blame her son. Something happened. Di Haotian did not show any displeasure. "Mom." Tang Bao walked in front of her and immediately called out. Yu Songhuan did not respond, but when she received Di Haotian's gaze, she reluctantly responded. Tang Bao was surprised that Yu Songhuan actually responded to her. In the past, she would ignore her when she called out to her, and she would even look unhappy. Alright, now he also had an unhappy look on his face. After Di Haotian and Tang Bao sat down on the sofa, Yu Songhuan said to Di Haotian, "Actually, I just came to take a look. I didn't expect you to be in the castle. I remember that today is not a day off." She mentioned you instead of you. She was obviously ignoring Tang Bao and staying out of the matter. Di Haotian furrowed his brows and said, "Bao Bao is pregnant." Chapter 324. After Yu Songhuan finished speaking, he looked at Di Haotian and said, "Being pregnant is a big deal, but you can't ignore tea. Don't forget there are still people who covet tea. Tang Bao is so safe in the castle, and there are servants waiting on her. Why would she need you to stay in the castle every day? You'll be a joke to others." Tang Bao thought that she was pregnant with Di Haotian's child, so Yu Songhuan should have shown a trace of kindness. After all, the child in her belly was her biological grandson. However, she didn't. If this couldn't make Yu Songhuan give her a good look, then how could he gain her favor? It seemed very difficult. "I dote on my wife and child, who needs to laugh at me? Even if you think so, you can't ignore tea, right? If you're really worried, I'll come to the castle often during the day. Is that okay?" Yu Songhuan said helplessly. "I know you're capable, but it's not good to not go to tea. Who's gossiping in front of you now?" Di Haotian's gaze shot towards Auntie Wang, who was standing behind Yu Songhuan. Auntie Wang was so scared that her head almost reached her chest. "Is there a need to gossip? Do you really think that I don't know anything if I really stay at home? I'm your mother, how can I not be considerate of you? Anyway, don't stay in the castle every day. Isn't it enough to have 2 days off a week? She's pregnant for 10 months, so are you not going to tea for 10 months? Yu Songhuan said. Di Haotian's expression was a little cold. "Don't blame me for being too blunt. Tang Bao is your wife. My approval is one thing, but being a good wife is the most important thing." Di Haotian's cold gaze looked at Yu Songhuan. Yu Songhuan couldn't bear that gaze and turned his gaze away. "Mom, don't worry. I'll definitely be a good wife," Tang Bao said immediately when he saw that Di Haotian's aura was not quite right. "Since that's the case, I won't say anything more. I'm leaving." Yu Songhuan stood up, took one last look at Tang Bao, and said, "As long as you give me a healthy grandson, I'll accept you." Then, he left. Once they were in the car, Yu Songhuan's body relaxed. He clutched his chest and gasped for breath. "Old madam, are you okay?" "It's really stressful to speak in front of Haotian, even as a mother," Yu Songhuan said. It could be seen how hard it was for her to pretend. "Old madam, don't worry. No matter what, you're still the Emperor's mother. The Emperor has always been filial to you. He won't do anything to you." Auntie Wang comforted her. "I know. But look at his gaze. Doesn't he think that I'm bullying Tang Bao?" Yu Songhuan got angry just thinking about it. That's why this matter has to be done secretly. Otherwise, if the Emperor finds out, he'll definitely be furious, Auntie Wang reminded her. When Yu Songhuan thought about that, he began to feel uneasy. Just as Auntie Wang said, the child in Tang Bao's stomach couldn't be kept. Not only that, but she also had to deal with it so that Di Haotian wouldn't suspect her. After Yu Songhuan left, Tang Bao turned to look at Di Haotian. Di Haotian's face was gloomy and he didn't say a word. Did Mom say that she'll accept me as long as I give birth to the child? Tang Bao asked. Di Haotian looked at her eager little face and his expression improved. Yes. No matter what the problem is, as long as there's a solution, it's fine. Now I'm relieved. Tang Bao smiled. Di Haotian hugged her and held her chin. His dark eyes were sharp as he said domineeringly, "You can rest assured, but I'm not." "Why not?" "And Mom's right. You can't always stay in the castle. The Emperor still has to attend morning court," Tang Bao said reasonably. Di Haotian stared at her deeply with his dark eyes. Other women couldn't wait for their husbands to accompany them. She, on the other hand, chased him out. She was so different. "What are you looking at?" Tang Bao's face turned red from being stared at. "You have to compensate me," Di Haotian said wickedly and dangerously. Tang Bao asked in a low and guarded voice, "How do you want to compensate me?" Di Haotian's handsome face covered hers. Tang Bao was so scared that she immediately stretched out her hand to refuse. "No. Bao, are the 3 obediences and 4 virtues just for show?" Di Haotian asked. Was Tang Bao going to regret the family rules that she had painstakingly obtained? She felt that she had been tricked by Di Haotian. Why was her cleverness cruelly crushed in front of Di Haotian? Moreover, why didn't she think that Di Haotian was such a nice person? He had always been so domineering that it made people's hair stand on end. Tang Bao's heart was full of regret. Di Haotian looked at Tang Bao's cute appearance and couldn't help but grin. Di Haotian's voice was low and hoarse. "Don't you like it?" Tang Bao stared at Di Haotian. "You can go to them. Go now." Di Haotian smiled deeply. "Jealous?" "No, you're thinking too much," Tang Bao said arrogantly. Di Haotian smiled but didn't say anything. He pinched her pretty chin and said, "I'll go to tea tomorrow. Be good at the castle." How can I be good? I also want to go to the company. I haven't been there for a long time. I kind of miss it," Tang Bao said when Di Haotian changed the topic. "No," Di Haotian said firmly. "Is it necessary to be so careful? I see people working when they're pregnant and only taking maternity leave when they give birth." There was an employee in Tang Bao's company who was like this. Chapter 325. The next day, when Tang Bao woke up, Di Haotian served her breakfast and then went to tea. Although she was not used to Di Haotian leaving her side for a while, she was not unhappy. Moreover, Di Haotian was too dangerous. Who knew what would happen if they stayed together all the time? Being in the same room as the devil always made her worry that she would be eaten. Even though she was pregnant, Di Haotian always had a way. Tang Bao was speechless. Just thinking about it made her blush. When Tang Bao was alone in the room, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Li walked over and said, "Young madam, old madam is here." Tang Bao was stunned. As expected, Di Haotian was not around. She should come to the castle more often. "I'll go down," Tang Bao said. "You don't have to go down. Old madam is on the open-air balcony above. Young madam can go over and bask in the sun. There's bird's nest porridge in the kitchen. I'll bring a bowl for young madam and old madam," Zhang Li said. Tang Bao immediately understood Zhang Li's intention and said, "Thank you." Tang Bao walked to the balcony. Yu Songhuan was indeed there. He was standing in front of the railing and looking into the distance. Tang Bao walked over and said with a smile, "Mom, you're here?" Yu Songhuan turned around and glanced at her. He sat down on the sofa and said, "Are you taking good care of the baby? Since I'm here to see you, I definitely have to ask. After all, you're pregnant with my biological grandson." "Mom, don't worry. I'm taking good care of myself. There won't be any problems," Tang Bao said. "Why are you standing?" "You're pregnant," Yu Songhuan said. "Thank you, Mom." Tang Bao was traumatized by the incident in the bungalow and did not dare to sit down directly. After hearing Yu Songhuan's words, he sat down. At this time, Zhang Li and the other servants carried the bird's nest porridge to the balcony and placed the bird's nest in front of Yu Songhuan and Tang Bao. Tang Bao immediately said, "Mom, it must have been hard on you to come all the way here to see me. This is the bird's nest porridge that I asked the kitchen to cook. Try it and see how it tastes." Yu Songhuan picked up the bird's nest porridge and ate it. Tang Bao checked her facial expression. To be honest, although Yu Songhuan was a woman, and an old woman at that, her aura was cultivated from a rich and powerful family. A simple-minded person like Tang Bao really had to be dealt with carefully. "What are you talking about? You're the hero of the D family now. Carrying a child is the tough part. Especially when your stomach is big, it'll be even tougher." Yu Songhuan said, "It's no trouble at all. This is what I should do." Tang Bao forced a smile on his face. In her heart, she thought that it was indeed tough. She couldn't do anything. Especially under Di Haotian's surveillance, she didn't even have the right to control her 2 legs. After finishing the bird's nest porridge, the bowls were removed. A servant came over with a hot towel to wipe her hands. After wiping them, she went down. Yu Songhuan said, "When I was pregnant with Haotian, it wasn't easy. When I was 3 or 4 months pregnant, I had a pregnancy reaction. I vomited so much that I was bleeding." "Did you have a miscarriage?" "Haha, definitely not a miscarriage. Di Haotian has already grown so big." Tang Bao pretended to smile, but he wanted to cry but had no tears. "Tang Bao, do you know how to chat?" "Stomach bleeding." "Ah, so it's stomach bleeding. Then you must have vomited too much." Tang Bao nodded in agreement. "I hope your pregnancy reaction will be less severe when the time comes." Tang Bao thought to himself that to give birth to a devil like Di Haotian, there must be more than just stomach bleeding. There must be something else. It wasn't easy to send Yu Songhuan away. Tang Bao's entire body relaxed as he slumped onto the sofa. Dealing with the Empress Dowager was really tiring. "Young madam, are you okay?" Zhang Li asked. "Do you think I'm okay?" Tang Bao looked up with a pitiful expression. "Actually, you don't have to worry about being pregnant with the young master's flesh and blood. Even if she wants you to do housework, she has to do it for the sake of the child in your stomach. And it seems that the old madam quite likes this unborn child," Zhang Li said. "What do you mean? Then, young madam, do you feel that the old madam is different from before?" "Yes, she's much more polite." "That's right. So, the next time the old madam comes, young madam won't have to be nervous." Tang Bao thought to herself, "I hope so." Now that she was like this, it was all thanks to the child in her stomach? Tang Bao's slender and fair hand touched her flat belly. There was a happy smile on her face. To be honest, she still hadn't really faced the fact that she was pregnant. She felt that it was unrealistic for her to be pregnant at such a young age. She hadn't even thought about how she was going to take care of him after he was born. Could it really be like what Juan Malay said and she lost him halfway? But who cares? She would think about it after he was born. Since she was already here, she would take things as they came. So would the child. Tang Bao smiled. After Yu Songhuan left, Tang Bao fell asleep on the bed. In the past, she didn't have the habit of taking afternoon nap. Even if she did, she had no choice but to sleep because she was too tired from Di Haotian. Otherwise, how would she deal with Di Haotian, that hungry wolf, at night? Tang Bao slept for a few hours and showed signs of waking up. She felt that the pillow she was hugging was really comfortable and warm. Hot? Tang Bao opened her eyes and looked up. She saw Di Haotian hugging her as he slept. As soon as the person in his arms moved, Di Haotian's sharp eyes opened. "Di Haotian, when did you come back?" Tang Bao was surprised. 3 o'clock. "Oh, I just fell asleep then," Tang Bao said after thinking for a while. "Mom came over?" Di Haotian asked. Of course, he was immediately aware of the slightest movement in the castle. "Yes, she came to see me." "What did she say?" "She said, it was hard when she was pregnant with you." Maybe it was because you're a big demon that she had to work so hard, Tang Bao said. Di Haotian narrowed his dark eyes. How dare you say that about your husband? You're quite bold. It's true, Tang Bao said unhappily. Then you're the demons? After Yu Songhuan came once, he came to the castle to see Tang Bao again a few days later. Just like that, he came once every few days, almost 4 times in total. After so many times, Tang Bao was no longer so reserved. She felt that Yu Songhuan really cared about this child. Compared to before, there was still a big difference. Still on the balcony, Tang Bao leaned lazily on the sofa and basked in the sun. She couldn't wait to fall asleep. Then she thought of something and said, Mom, are you bored in the bungalow alone? I'll visit you often in the future. Or you can move back to the castle directly. There's no need. It's quiet for me to stay alone. Okay, then I'll accompany you more in the future, Tang Bao said as she leaned on the sofa again and squinted her eyes to bask in the sun. She was as obedient as a cat. Yu Songhuan couldn't help but look over. Her skin looked even fairer under the sun. Chapter 326. Yu Songhuan glanced at Tang Bao's flat stomach, then looked away. Back then in the Di family, when old Master Di was still around, the whole family had been fighting for power. Her husband lost because he was not ruthless enough. She cared about her brother, so when they fought for power back then, she also put in a lot of effort. She played tricks and fought with Di Lingwei and his wife. Di Haotian did not disappoint. His methods were outstanding and unfathomable. He won tea and held great power. Yu Songhuan thought that he could just eat vegetarian and pray to Buddha and not care about anything else, but he did not expect that she would have to do such a scheming thing. Tang Bao was much younger than Di Haotian. In her eyes, he was more like a child. Especially when she looked at Tang Bao's trusting eyes, Yu Songhuan did not want to look into her eyes. However, if she did not do that, she did not want Di Haotian to hate her. So, she could only sacrifice Tang Bao. Yu Songhuan said to Tang Bao, I heard a few days ago that Wanru's mood was not very good. Maybe we can let her come over to relax. It will be good for her health. Tang Bao was stunned. She did not expect Yu Songhuan to make such a request. But she could not destroy the distance that she had worked so hard to close because of such a request. She said, sure. Half an hour later, Lan Wanru arrived. When she walked into the balcony and saw Yu Songhuan, she immediately greeted her gently, Auntie? Take a seat. You're not feeling well, Yu Songhuan said. Tang Bao glanced at Yu Songhuan. Yu Songhuan had a smile on his face. This was a treatment that Tang Bao did not receive. Although Yu Songhuan's words were full of concern, they were also serious. After Lan Wanru sat down, he looked at Tang Bao and then at her stomach. He said, I heard that you're pregnant with Brother Haotian's child? Congratulations. Thank you, Tang Bao said politely. Wanru doesn't come here often. Now that Tang Bao is pregnant, she must be bored alone in the castle. If you have time, come and visit her. Yu Songhuan said to Lan Wanru. Although Lan Wanru found it a little strange, he didn't take it to heart. Even if it was strange, it was covered up by her own jealousy. However, she still replied gently, Don't worry, Auntie. I'll definitely come and accompany Tang Bao often. Tang Bao was repulsed. Let Lan Wanru come to the castle to accompany her? When the time came, would she be the one to make Lan Wanru faint from anger? Or did Lan Wanru make her so angry that she wanted to find a brick? No matter what, it was Lan Wanru who was at a disadvantage. I'm going to the bathroom. Yu Songhuan stood up and left the balcony. Now, only Lan Wanru and Tang Bao were left. There was no need to pretend anymore. Lan Wanru was the first to stop pretending. Do you think that you can stay by Brother Haotian's side forever just because you're pregnant with his child? You don't even know if the child in your belly is Brother Haotian's. Tang Bao looked indifferently at the angry Lan Wanru and asked, If it's not his, then whose? I think it's my brother Di Junbai's. Tang Bao raised her eyebrows and didn't comment. How can you be so shameless? You slept with my brother and are pregnant with his child. You still want to stay by Brother Haotian's side? Aren't you afraid that the child will be exposed after it's born? How can you be at ease? What can I do? Your brother Haotian wants me, and I can't refuse. Moreover, he said that even if the child is Di Junbai's, he will still treat it as his own. What did you say? Lan Wanru couldn't believe it and her face turned pale. Tang Bao looked at her sickly pale face and thought, is she going to faint? She already said that it was definitely not a good idea to let Lan Wanru accompany her at the castle. Lan Wanru was also a scheming woman. After she calmed down, she sneered, "Do you think I'll believe your words? Your tricks are useless against me." "Then why do you think I'm still by Di Haotian's side?" Tang Bao asked. She had never seen a woman like Lan Wanru. So what if she liked Di Haotian? Didn't she know that Di Haotian was her man now? Was he already a married man? What was the point of staying by his side like this? Or was she waiting for the day when Di Haotian would marry her? Tang Bao didn't think it was possible for her. You must have bewitched Brother Haotian. But if the child is my brother's after it's born, then you won't have a good ending. Lan Wanru calmed herself down and tried to make Tang Bao back off. Then wait for the day when I give birth to the child, Tang Bao said indifferently. Lan Wanru glared at Tang Bao angrily. She had never seen such a disgusting person. She could still stay by Di Haotian's side with a clear conscience when she was with another man. Lan Wanru didn't want to wait that long. She couldn't wait for Tang Bao's child to disappear right now. That way, her chances would be even higher. Yu Songhuan walked into the balcony. The two of them immediately stopped talking. When Yu Songhuan sat down, he glanced at Lan Wanru and asked, "Why do you look so pale? You look ghastly pale." "I might be feeling a little unwell." "It's okay." Lan Wanru flashed a smile at Yu Songhuan. Tang Bao looked at her and thought, she changed so quickly. "Wanru, you should go back first. It's important that you're not feeling well. Come back again when you're feeling better. Auntie will accompany you," Yu Songhuan said with concern. "Thank you, Auntie. I'll go back first." "Okay." When Lan Wanru stood up, she glanced coldly at Tang Bao, as if she wouldn't give up. Then, she turned and left. Lan Wanru didn't want to accompany Tang Bao. Even if she came back again, she would rather it was just her and Di Haotian here. Yu Songhuan took a sip of tea and glanced at Tang Bao, who was eating the snacks made in the kitchen. He slowly said, "Tang Bao." Tang Bao was stunned because Yu Songhuan had never called her that before. It was as if he was serious about something. "You know that I didn't like you from the start, right? Because I didn't like you, I didn't want you to marry Haotian, and I didn't want you to have his child. Especially after I found out about the filthy thing between you and Di Junbai, I couldn't get rid of the anger in my heart. And Haotian was actually willing to accept this kind of humiliation for you. I couldn't just stand by and watch." Yu Songhuan's eyes were cold, and his every expression was filled with disdain for Tang Bao. Tang Bao didn't expect that even Yu Songhuan knew about that matter. After the shock, she came back to her senses and was about to explain the matter when Yu Songhuan spoke again. "So, when I found out that Haotian wanted to make you pregnant, I used some tricks." "What?" Tang Bao chewed the pastry in her mouth. "I asked the maid to put contraceptive pills in the bird's nest you drink every day," Yu Songhuan said. What? But I'm pregnant?" Tang Bao was confused by Yu Songhuan's words. Chapter 327. What do you mean? Mom, why don't I understand? You don't understand? Then I'll make it clearer. Since he had already said it, Yu Songhuan did not want to suppress it. According to the time when I drugged you, you were actually pregnant. In other words, after you were pregnant, I drugged you, and it was a week's worth. Even if this child was born, it would not be healthy. Do you understand? You. What did you say? Tang Bao could not believe what Yu Songhuan said. Now, you can't have this child. You have to abort this child. Also, you can't let Haotian know. Haven't you always wanted to be acknowledged by me? This is your chance. Tang Bao sat there, immersed in his thoughts, unable to return to his senses. Yu Songhuan drugged her without anyone knowing. She had been drugged for a week? No, it can't be. Taking medicine might not be harmful to the child. Tang Bao did not want to accept this fact. I've already asked the doctor. The doctor said that the child will be damaged after taking it once, let alone after taking it for a week. This child definitely can't be kept. Yu Songhuan interrupted her. But Di Haotian wants this child. Tang Bao looked at Yu Songhuan with tears in her eyes. I know, but it has already happened. Is it something that can't be helped? Or do you want to give birth to a deformed child? If it's a deformed child, how do you want Haotian to see you? Do you think that you married a wife who can only give birth to a deformed child? Yu Songhuan asked cruelly. Tang Bao was so shocked that her body swayed. There were tears in her eyes. She did not cry because she was enduring it. Why did you drug me? Even if you don't like me, you shouldn't do this. Tang Bao asked, unable to bear it. Why? You have the nerve to question me? Do you think that I don't know what you did with Di Bai? I know everything. As a married woman, how can you do something that betrays your husband? Do you have any sense of shame? How can I allow you to give birth to a child of the Di family, a child of Haotian? I'm thinking that Haotian won't let go now because he wants you to be fresh and young. And men couldn't stand the test of time. I didn't expect you to get pregnant so soon. Tang Bao did not expect this to happen. Everyone thought that she had an affair with Di Bai. She and Di Haotian did not explain it to anyone. Even now, Tang Bao would still hear how Di Haotian doted on her so much that he didn't even care if she was cuckolded. However, the truth was not like that. She didn't know that Yu Songhuan would take it so seriously. If she had known earlier, she would have run over to explain to her. Actually, there's nothing going on between me and Di Bai. It's just a misunderstanding, Tang Bao said, feeling dizzy. Misunderstanding? Don't think that I don't know that Haotian is always on your side. He will turn black into white. Mom, Di Haotian won't agree to the abortion. Then don't ask for his permission. When the time comes, you can find an excuse to avoid it. Anyway, you're still young. You'll still have children in the future. Find an excuse? Was Di Haotian so easy to fool? Tang Bao lowered her head and a tear fell on the back of her hand. It made her feel cold all over. Yu Songhuan saw that she was crying and his tone softened. He asked, or do you want Haotian to break up with me because of this? Think about it yourself. Moreover, if you want to have a showdown with Di Haotian, I won't want you as my daughter-in-law anymore. When the time comes, I'll threaten you with death. Do you think Haotian will still want you? Only when this matter is done properly can we live in peace. In the future, I will also accept you. With that, Yu Songhuan stood up and left. Only Tang Bao was left on the balcony. The sun was still hanging in the sky, but it was no longer as strong as the afternoon sun. Tang Bao looked over, but she still felt uncomfortable with the glaring sun. It made the tears in her eyes fall continuously. Tang Bao was afraid that the servants would see her crying on the balcony, so she returned to her room. When she returned to her room, she was in a daze. She didn't know what to do and was at a loss. Would Yu Songhuan lie to her? Because he didn't like her child, so he thought of this way to make her abort the child? But how dangerous was that? She could be discovered at any time. And no matter what, she was pregnant with Di Haotian's child, her biological grandson. Why did she have to do this? Unless she really couldn't have it. Tang Bao's stomach churned and she wanted to vomit. She covered her mouth and went into the bathroom, vomiting into the toilet bowl. She vomited out the food she had eaten in the afternoon, as well as the bird's nest and pastries she had eaten in the afternoon. Her stomach was still convulsing, and all she vomited out was clear water. She vomited until tears flowed out of her eyes, and her face was covered in tears. Bao! Di Haotian frowned and went in to hold Tang Bao, who was vomiting weakly and was about to fall. He carried her out of the bathroom directly. He put her on the bed and stared at her with his dark eyes. He wiped her tears and took out his phone to make a call. Call the doctor over, immediately. Tang Bao looked at the chiseled face above her, and the tears that had been wiped away fell again. Do you feel uncomfortable? The doctor will be here soon. Di Haotian frowned because Tang Bao's face was very pale. Other than vomiting, where else do you feel uncomfortable? Tang Bao shook her head gently, and her voice was weak. It should be the pregnancy reaction that Mom mentioned. It's okay. Di Haotian leaned over and kissed Tang Bao's little mouth with his thin lips. When the child is born, I'll help you teach her a lesson. Pfft. Tang Bao was amused by Di Haotian. Why are you so bad? Di Haotian didn't say anything, but his deep and doting eyes were locked on her. Di Haotian. Tang Bao's slender and fair fingers tugged at Di Haotian's suit jacket. Yes. Do you really want this child? Yes. Tang Bao didn't ask anymore. The more Di Haotian wanted this child, the more upset she felt. She didn't know what to do. What if the child was abnormal? Yu Songhuan's words scared her. You don't like it? Di Haotian asked as he looked at her reaction. If I say I don't like it, will you still want it? Di Haotian became dangerous. His slender fingers hooked her chin, and he said in a domineering manner, even if you don't like it, you have to give birth to the child. Yes? Only by giving birth to the child could he keep Tang Bao by his side forever. He didn't have to worry about how far she would run. Tang Bao reacted in a daze. There was no way out. The doctor soon arrived. After doing various examinations on Tang Bao, the doctor said to Di Haotian, she's healthy. It's a normal pregnancy reaction. Please don't worry. Chapter 328. She vomited like that and he didn't need to worry? The female doctor lowered her head in fear. Di Haotian glanced at the doctor coldly and asked, is there any medicine that can be used? Any medicine will harm the fetus. You can only pay attention to this in terms of diet. For example, eating light food, eating until the stomach is 70% full, and eating less but more meals will be better. When Tang Bao heard the doctor say that any medicine will harm the fetus, his eyes flashed with panic. Di Haotian's eyes darkened as he said, stay in the castle until the child is born. Yes. Now that she has vomited out everything in her stomach, what can she eat? Warm milk to warm the stomach. Go to the kitchen and give the instructions. Yes. The doctor said and went out. Di Haotian turned around and saw Tang Bao staring blankly out of the window, his face still pale. Bao? Tang Bao was stunned. He looked away and met Di Haotian's sharp eyes. He asked, what's wrong? What are you thinking about? What am I thinking about? Nothing at all. Tang Bao pursed his lips and said. Di Haotian did not say anything. After walking out of the room, he asked the maid, who came today? Old Madam and Miss Lan, the maid said. Before the young madam gives birth to the child, Lan Wanru is not allowed to enter the castle again. Di Haotian ordered. Yes. The maid went out. Di Haotian thought, what did Lan Wanru say to Tang Bao? Tang Bao's mood changed. Before he went out and after he came back, his mood was completely different. He should not have let Lan Wanru come and go as he pleased. In the dead of night, Tang Bao began to sleep uneasily. He was so scared that he shouted, ah! Di Haotian's black eyes suddenly opened, and his heart tightened. Bao! Wake up! Tang Bao opened his eyes and stared blankly at Di Haotian. He was panting and his eyes were filled with fear. Only when he saw Di Haotian's face did he come back to reality. Nightmares? I dreamt. Tang Bao could not say it out loud. She instinctively did not want Di Haotian to know. No matter what you dream, it's all fake. Di Haotian comforted her softly. Even though he knew it was fake, Tang Bao was still shocked. Di Haotian turned on the lights to the brightest, hugged Tang Bao, and leaned against his chest. Don't be afraid, your husband is here. Tang Bao nestled against Di Haotian's firm chest and listened to his strong heartbeat. His breathing gradually stabilized. What did she dream of? She dreamt that she was giving birth to a child, but the child was born with a terrible deformity. She scared everyone, including herself. So she screamed and woke up from her dream. At this moment, that panic still lingered in his chest. What should she do? Di Haotian hugged the sleeping Tang Bao, but his expression was very cold. It was so obvious that something was wrong with Tang Bao. She would never dream. If it was because of the psychological burden caused by the pregnancy, it should have been in the early stages of the pregnancy. So many days had passed, why would she have a nightmare now? The next day, Di Haotian did not go to tea. Instead, he appeared at Di Lingyue's house. At this time, Di Lingyue and Di Junbai were not around. The villa was extremely depressed because of Di Haotian's arrival. It was even more suffocating than when the real master was at home. Everyone knew that this was the master who held the most power. Liu Huai hurried downstairs and was stunned when he saw the unfathomable Di Haotian sitting on the sofa. Then, he calmed his nervous emotions and walked over. Haotian, why are you here? Are you looking for your uncle? Or Ju Bai? They're both in the company now. Lan Wanru. Di Haotian interrupted her coldly. Looking for Wanru? Liu Huai did not know what was going on and quickly said, I'll get someone to call her. Go and call Miss Biao down. He instructed the servant. The servant immediately went. In the room, Lan Wanru was fiddling with the flowers. The servant walked in and said, Miss Biao, young master is here. He wants to see you. What? Who are you talking about? Brother Haotian is here? Lan Wanru immediately put down the flowers and stood up to walk out of the room. After taking a few steps, she remembered her current outfit and asked Belle, Do I look good in the clothes I'm wearing? Will it be okay to see Brother Haotian? Will he like it? I think young master will like whatever you wear now. Why? Because young master came specially for you. You're right. Lan Wanru's sickly pale face revealed a hint of shyness. He turned around and went downstairs. From afar, she saw Di Haotian sitting on the sofa and felt a burst of joy in her heart. Although she did not know why Di Haotian was looking for her, seeing him would make Lan Wanru happy for a few days. Brother Haotian, you're here? I heard from the servant that you were looking for me. Lan Wanru's face was full of joy. Di Haotian's cold and sharp eyes looked at Lan Wanru. That kind of oppressive and cold black eyes made the smile on Lan Wanru's face freeze. Di Haotian did not care that there were other people present and asked directly, Did you go to the castle yesterday? Yes. You don't have to go until Tang Bao's child is born, Di Haotian said without giving any leeway. Lan Wanru did not expect Di Haotian to say such a thing and was stunned for a moment. In the past, she could come and go as she pleased. Liu Huai, who was standing next to her, was also stunned. What was so serious? I'll only ask once. What did you say to Tang Bao when you went yesterday? Di Haotian asked impatiently. Lan Wanru now understood why Di Haotian was here. He specially came to look for her, not for her, but for the Tang Bao. I did say some things. How can a person like Tang Bao be worthy of you? She even slept with my brother. Brother Haotian, you're humiliating yourself with such a woman. And the child in her belly might not be yours, but my brother's child. I let her know her own limits and let her leave you. What's wrong with that? Brother Haotian, everything I did was for you. Enough? Di Haotian's cold eyes were ruthless. Everyone present trembled in fear. Lan Wanru did not dare to continue. Di Haotian's aura was terrifying. I will only have one woman in my life, the Tang Bao. You can say such things in front of me, but you can't let her hear it. If anything happens to her, I'll hold you responsible. After saying that, he turned around and left. Lan Wanru's face turned pale and said to the heartless and imposing figure, Okay, I'll say it in front of you. You came to look for me today because of the Tang Bao, right? What is it about such a woman that attracts you? I don't understand. Di Haotian's figure paused and looked ahead with a gloomy and frightening gaze. You don't have the right to understand. But I love you. I've loved you for so many years. Why can't you look at me? Lan Wanru asked sadly. Chapter 329. Lan Wanru was so upset that she was on the verge of collapsing. Liu Huai went up to support her with heartache. Why are you doing this? Auntie, I love Brother Haotian. I love him. I don't want anyone else other than him. I know. But why did Brother Haotian treat me like this? What did I do wrong? I'm telling the truth. That bitch Tang Bao, she deserves to die. The woman who should stay by Brother Haotian's side should be me. It's me. Lan Wanru's tears fell. Calm down. I still don't know what happened. Tell Auntie. I went to the castle yesterday. When I saw Tang Bao, I couldn't control myself and said something to her when I thought of the child in her belly. After that, Brother Haotian came to question me. I didn't do anything. Did he have to come and treat me like this just because Tang Bao was angry? Lan Wanru was extremely upset. Liu Huai sighed helplessly. Di Haotian used to protect Tang Bao in all kinds of ways. Now that she has a child, he definitely doesn't want her emotions to be affected. This Tang Bao is really too much. It's just a small matter. I really underestimated her scheming. She always liked to play tricks in front of Brother Haotian. If she was so innocent, how could Brother Haotian treat her like this? Lan Wanru thought of herself and tears fell again. Why is my body like this? If I was healthy, Brother Haotian wouldn't ignore me. Before she could finish speaking, she fainted. Wanru! Liu Huai screamed in fright. In the bungalow, Yu Songhuan held a cup of tea in his hands and looked very relaxed. I heard that Wanru is seriously ill? Yes, the doctor stayed for a long time before she woke up. It seems that young master went, and then Miss Biao became like this, Auntie Wang said. This was exactly the development that Yu Songhuan wanted. Haotian should be in the castle, right? Young madam is in a bad mood. Young master is accompanying her in the castle. Wanru is a good child. It's hard on her, Yu Songhuan said. Actually, it's not hard. If young master doesn't like young madam in the future, she's also an opportunity. After Auntie Wang finished speaking, she observed Yu Songhuan's expression. But young master is so good to young madam, so he probably won't. To tell you the truth, between Tang Bao and Wanru, I still prefer Wanru to be my daughter-in-law, Yu Songhuan said. Old madam's wishes will come true. I'm at the dining table. Of the food, of course. The soup also contained a medicinal cuisine to whet one's appetite, and eatings of a. In fact, her biggest problem was the issue of children. If the child was healthy, she could vomit as much as she wanted. But the child, her wrist stopped as she stretched out her chopsticks. Tang Bao came back to her senses and looked at Di Haotian in confusion. What's wrong? 70% full is enough. Tang Bao didn't resist and obediently put down her chopstick. Di Haotian looked at her with a deep gaze. When did Tang Bao become so obedient? If you want to eat, wait for another half an hour, Di Haotian said. No, I'm not eating. Tang Bao shook her head. Di Haotian looked at Tang Bao's pale face and said, Don't take Lan Wanru's words to heart. No matter what she says, you're my only woman, Di Haotian. Now and in the future. Tang Bao was startled by the undisguised dominance in his words. Her long eyelashes drooped and she nodded. I understand. So Di Haotian thought that she was upset because of what Lan Wanru said to her? Yes, she had been like this since Lan Wanru came yesterday. But he didn't know that she was upset because of what Yu Songhuan did to her and what he said to her. However, Tang Bao couldn't say it out loud. Just like what Yu Songhuan said, did she want Di Haotian to break up with her mother? Back then, she wronged herself to make Yu Songhuan happy. No matter what Yu Songhuan did to her, she endured it. Because she knew that Yu Songhuan was Di Haotian's only family. Tang Bao understood how important it was to have one's only family member. Just like her father. She didn't want Di Haotian to be like her and regret his actions in the future. He would be in so much pain that he wanted to die. However, Tang Bao didn't want to abort the child now. She still had some hope in her heart. What if Yu Songhuan was lying to her? Or what if the child was drugged and there was nothing wrong with it? Tang Bao didn't want to put too much psychological burden on herself. She didn't want to scare herself. It wouldn't be good for the child. She just didn't know when she would know if the fetus was healthy. It seemed that she had to ask the doctor sometime. Sitting on the balcony, Tang Bao played with her phone in her hand. Di Haotian, who was sitting next to her, ordered a restraining order. Half an hour? Only half an hour? Did Dr. Wang say that? Tang Bao asked. Dr. Wang was the female doctor in charge now. She had only seen her when she checked her body before. She didn't know which part of the castle she lived in. After all, the castle was so big that it wasn't easy to find. I said it. Di Haotian's overbearing nature appeared again. Your words don't count. Tang Bao pouted. Di Haotian didn't continue to pressure her. Looking at Tang Bao's dissatisfied face, he peeled a fruit and put it in her mouth. He deliberately poked her soft little hand with the fruit. It was as soft as velvet. Tang Bao dodged and frowned. What are you doing? Seeing the fruit handed over, Tang Bao leaned forward and opened her mouth to take a bite. However, as soon as she took a bite, Di Haotian took the fruit away. Tang Bao stared at Di Haotian. Di Haotian's black eyes flashed with a threatening luster. Are you going to give it to me or not? Di Haotian handed the fruit over, and Tang Bao continued to bite. Then, Di Haotian took the fruit away again. Tang Bao was angry. I'm angry. I don't want to eat. Stop playing. Di Haotian handed the fruit over. Tang Bao looked at the fruit in front of her and asked suspiciously, Really? Yes. What if you're kidding me? I won't this time. I promise. Tang Bao bit her lip, opened her mouth, and pounced on it. Di Haotian took the fruit back. Tang Bao stopped breathing. She was angry. Then, Tang Bao felt the sweet fruit juice flowing into her mouth and into her throat. She swallowed instinctively. The devil! And she couldn't struggle or move. Chapter 330. It's fair, Di Haotian said wickedly. In this aspect, she could not win against Di Haotian. She stood up and was about to leave. Di Haotian immediately asked, Where are you going? To the toilet. Do you want to follow me? Tang Bao saw Di Haotian's expression change slightly and immediately said, You're not allowed to follow me. Di Haotian only went to the Tang group after Tang Bao's mood improved. Tang Bao's mood was only on the surface. She tried to maintain a happy mood, but deep in her heart, she was still uneasy. She found the room where Dr. Wang was. After entering, she found all kinds of medicine on the cabinet next to him. What are these medicine? Tang Bao asked. These are all common medicine in case young madam catches a cold. There are also medicine to prevent miscarriage, Dr. Wang said. Tang Bao looked at the medicine and thought of something. She asked, I remember a friend of mine said that if the medicine is not used properly, it can cause miscarriage. Don't worry, young madam. These medicine are used just in case. It won't cause miscarriage. The dosage will definitely not harm the fetus. Is there a medicine that can cause miscarriage? That's medicine. If a woman accidentally gets pregnant and doesn't want the child, she can choose to have an abortion. I shouldn't say these words to young madam. Dr. Wang immediately stopped talking. It's okay. I'm just curious. Don't worry, Dr. Wang. By the way, I want to know, when does the fetus take shape? Tang Bao asked. At about 3 months, the fetus takes shape. Its little hands and feet are already out. Tang Bao frowned. It takes that long? Yes, at that time, the belly has already begun to grow. Tang Bao was uneasy on the way to the room. At 3 months, the belly grew. The child took shape. Would a child who was drugged be healthy? When she returned to the room, her phone rang, startling her. Tang Bao looked at the phone. It was the landline in the bungalow. At that time, Tang Bao secretly stored it when she was doing housework in the bungalow. She wanted to get closer to Yu Songhuan. Tang Bao looked at the caller ID with his heart beating unsteadily. Finally, he answered, "Hello, have you made up your mind?" Yu Songhuan's voice was forceful. "Mom, are you saying this on purpose because you don't like me? I can't accept it." Tang Bao felt terrible. "He's still my grandson. No matter how much I dislike you, do you think I don't want a grandson?" Yu Songhuan's displeased and stern voice was heard. "Tang Bao, it's not like you can't have another child in the future. Why do you have to do this?" "But I. Tang Bao could not bear to do it. He did not want to deceive Di Haotian either. She was upset. For the Tang Bao, deceiving Di Haotian to do such a thing was even more unacceptable than losing his child. She couldn't imagine the way Di Haotian looked at her after the baby was gone. "You don't believe me, do you? You can ask the supervisor if there's a servant called Zhou Lihua. Did Zhou Lihua resign 2 days ago? I was the one who asked her to take the medicine. After the matter was done, there was no need for her to stay here anymore. I gave her a sum of money and left." Yu Songhuan thought that no matter what, he had to get rid of the child. When they found out that the child was deformed, Di Haotian would definitely be suspicious. She knew how shrewd her son was. "Even so, I don't know how to abort the child. Di Haotian keeps a close eye on me. After she became pregnant, she could not leave the castle. How about this? I'll give you the medicine in a few days. After you take it, the child will show signs of miscarriage. Haotian will send you to the hospital. The doctor will find that the child is gone and will naturally abort you. There are many reasons for miscarriage, and the doctor won't be able to find them. You don't have to worry about Haotian finding out. Moreover, the child in your stomach is just a piece of meat that hasn't formed yet. You don't have to feel burdened." After the call ended, Tang Bao stood there for a long time without coming back to her senses. She gripped the phone in her hand tightly. It was like an instinctive reaction of insecurity. There was a knock on the door, and Zhang Li came in with a bowl of bird's nest soup in his hand. "Young madam, why didn't you go to the balcony to bask in the sun?" "I'm not going. I'll sleep for a while after drinking the bird's nest soup," Tang Bao said as she took the bowl. Zhang Li stood at the side and watched her drink. After she finished drinking, she was going to take the bowl away. Tang Bao drank a few mouthfuls and asked, "Did any of the servants in the castle resign recently?" Zhang Li thought for a moment and hesitated. "Young madam, are you referring to the male servant? It's not young master's fault for firing him. He did something wrong." "Fired by Di Haotian? Who?" "The one who told young madam about the moon by the flower bed last time. Don't tell me that Di Haotian fired him because he said a few more words to me?" Zhang Li didn't know what to say for a moment. "Next time, all the male servants in the castle don't talk to me. Otherwise, won't they all be fired?" Tang Bao was extremely dissatisfied. Zhang Li thought to himself that the young master had instructed them to do so. "And it's even worse than you think. If anyone talks to young madam, just pull out their tongue. Forget it, it's better not to say such bloody words. Young madam is pregnant, don't scare her." Tang Bao didn't expect to get this out of her. Could Di Haotian be any more domineering? Just because she said a few words? Tang Bao suddenly thought of the cold aura Di Haotian emitted that day and the moon that was ordered to be removed. She finally understood why Di Haotian was angry. Sure enough, she had provoked Di Haotian. Tang Bao really couldn't forget the lesson of the male dog in the past. Therefore, after the shock, she wasn't surprised. "Young madam, don't blame the young master. The young master cares too much about you," Zhang Li said when he saw that Tang Bao didn't seem to be in a good mood. Tang Bao came back to her senses and continued to ask, "There's only that male servant. Is there no one else?" Zhang Li thought for a moment and said, "There's also a female servant, but she resigned on her own accord. It seems that something happened at home, so she stopped working." What's her name? Zhou Lihua. Tang Bao's hand trembled, and the bowl almost fell. Young madam, what's wrong? Oh, it's nothing. I was just thinking that I seemed to have seen her a few days ago. Why is she gone now? Tang Bao tried to hide her abnormality. Yes, when young madam was watching TV in the hall downstairs, she was the one who often served young madam bird's nest soup. It's normal for young madam not to see her and feel strange. Tang Bao felt that she couldn't maintain her calmness at this moment. She handed the bowl to Zhongli, stood up, and said, I'm not eating. I'm a little sleepy. Zhongli looked at the bowl. It wasn't finished yet. However, he thought that she might be too sleepy and that it would be good to wait for a while, so he turned around and left the room. Chapter 331. However, when she took her hand away, the tears in her eyes couldn't be contained. They dripped down hot. What Yu Songhuan said was true. She really couldn't have the child in her belly. She tried hard to convince herself that Yu Songhuan was only forcing her because he didn't like her. What else could she use to convince herself now? Tang Bao clutched her still flat belly as if she wasn't pregnant at all. So, if she aborted the child now, she wouldn't be too sad, right? She knew as well as Yu Songhuan. If the child was deformed, Di Haotian would definitely be suspicious, because from the moment Di Haotian started to touch her, he already had the intention of getting her pregnant. Then how did the deformity come about? After she got pregnant, he even told her to touch her phone less. Di Haotian would definitely be suspicious, and he would investigate when the time came. What would the consequences be if he found out about Yu Songhuan? Tang Bao thought of her father, Tang Qishan. She didn't want Di Haotian to be like her. She didn't want, a few days later, Yu Songhuan arrived at the castle in a car. When he got out of the car, he tightened his grip on his bag and calmed himself down before getting out. Walking into the hall, Lien stepped forward. Old madam, where's Tang Bao? Young madam is watching TV in the hall upstairs, Lien said. She's pregnant. How can you let her watch TV? Yu Songhuan frowned. The doctor said that it won't be a problem for an hour or two. The young master also agreed, Lien said. Yu Songhuan's expression changed and he asked, How's Tang Bao recently? Has she taken care of the food? Yes, the young master has instructed that all the food should be according to the young madam's appetite. Yu Songhuan's expression was a little unhappy, but he didn't say anything. Then he went upstairs. Tang Bao was watching a horror movie with an expressionless face. For pregnant women, such movies weren't suitable for watching. However, she wasn't paying attention to it at all. She was just in a daze. Every moment was torture for her. Why are you watching something like this? Yu Songhuan frowned as he watched the bloody scene on the TV. Then he sat down on the sofa. Tang Bao was stunned. He did not expect Yu Songhuan to come. What did her arrival mean? Tang Bao felt very uneasy. She lowered her head and turned off the television. All of you can leave. I'll take care of things here. Yu Songhuan glanced at the servants around him and said. The servants left the room. Only Yu Songhuan and Tang Bao were left in the reception hall. I've brought the pills. As long as you eat it, it won't take long for you to have a reaction. Yu Songhuai took out a packet from his bag and handed it to Tang Bao. Tang Bao felt that the white paper packet was like a poison that could kill her. She reached out her hand hesitantly and fearfully. She had been holding it in her hand for a long time, and her face was already pale. Also, make it look like you're having a miscarriage. It'll be less harmful to Di Haotian, Yu Songhuan said. Tang Bao stared at the paper packet in her hand and asked again, Mom, I really can't keep the child? I've already asked the doctor. You can't even take a single pill of the medicine I gave you. I don't know what the piece of meat in your stomach has become. Yu Songhuan didn't mind being more straightforward. Tang Bao's eyes trembled. Her eyes were a little hot, and her voice was slightly hoarse. I understand. I'll take the medicine. The sooner the better. Don't drag it out. It's not good for your health. Was this considered his love for her? Tang Bao didn't feel comforted at all, and she didn't want to delve into it. She only knew that she couldn't keep the child in her stomach. She had no fate with the child in her stomach. She didn't even notice when Yu Songhuan left. When she came back to her senses, there was only her and the white paper packet in her hand in the middle hall. Before Di Haotian returned to the castle, Tang Bao put away the medicine. She pretended as if nothing had happened. However, she didn't dare to look into Di Haotian's dark eyes for too long. They were so sharp that it was as if they could see through her at any time. When she took a shower at night, Tang Bao stood alone under the shower. Tang Bao was stunned. She didn't need to turn around to know that it was Di Haotian. "What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood?" Di Haotian's deep, hoarse voice was very pleasant to the ears. Tang Bao lowered her head slightly. "It's okay if I take a shower alone. Is there something on your mind?" Di Haotian suddenly changed the topic. Tang Bao was caught off guard. No. You weren't paying attention when you were eating." Di Haotian's sharp black eyes locked on her side profile. Even so, Tang Bao was still a little flustered. She thought that Di Haotian didn't notice. She thought that she had concealed it well. She didn't expect him to settle the score. "You're mistaken. When was I not paying attention? You think I can't tell? You're hiding something from me." If it weren't for the fact that she couldn't run away, Tang Bao would definitely turn around and run away. But what was the use of running away? Where could she run to? The castle was so big that she couldn't even run out. "What can I hide from you? I've been in the castle every day and haven't gone anywhere. If you don't believe me, you can ask others." Tang Bao believed him. Since Yu Songhuan dared to do such a thing, he must have planned it well. He wouldn't let Di Haotian find out anything was wrong. Di Haotian naturally knew everything that happened in the castle. It was because everything was normal and Tang Bao was still not as lively as before that he felt suspicious. Tang Bao felt that Di Haotian was unusually silent and said, "Maybe it's because I'm pregnant that you think I have something on my mind. Any reaction today?" "It's been there recently, but it's not a big reaction. Why don't you say it? I think it's a small matter. And I didn't vomit. I also asked Dr. Wang. She said that this is already very good." Chapter 332. I know. Tang Bao lowered her gaze slightly. "No matter what you want or what you want, I'll satisfy you." Tang Bao's heart ached, and the rainwater in front of her became blurry. Then, she turned around and threw herself into Di Haotian's broad chest. She buried her head and hugged Di Haotian's strong waist tightly with both hands. Di Haotian's body trembled. "Don't move. I want to hold you like this for a while." Di Haotian hugged her. "You can hold me for as long as you want. But this will waste a lot of water." Tang Bao's voice was muffled. "I'll indulge you." Tang Bao had a smile on her face, but she was very sad in her heart. She could only hug Di Haotian like this to make her feel better. Tang Bao did not dare to take the medicine in front of Di Haotian. She had no chance. After taking a shower with Di Haotian, she was carried to bed. Then, she gave Tang Bao half a glass of milk to warm her stomach before she was allowed to sleep. As long as Di Haotian was around, she was not allowed to leave his sight at all. When she opened her eyes, it was already the next day. Before she fully regained her consciousness, she felt that she was in a bundled-up sleeping position. Tang Bao raised her head and saw Di Haotian with his eyes closed. His long and narrow eyes, chiseled face, and noble temperament with a hint of arrogance. Even though he was so quiet, he still made people feel that he was a sleeping beast. Tang Bao kicked his leg. "You're pretending to be asleep. Don't think that I don't know." After breakfast, Di Haotian wanted to go to tea. As soon as he walked into the hall, Tang Bao called him, "Di Haotian." Di Haotian turned around and stared at her with his dark eyes. Tang Bao walked forward, hesitated, and tiptoed under Di Haotian's strong pressure. Di Haotian's black eyes were slightly dazed, and his heart rippled. Just as he was about to move, Tang Bao took a step back and looked at him with a smile. You're not allowed to stay in the castle and not work. Don't watch horror movies, Di Haotian said to Zhongli, who was not far away. Watch her. Yes? Di Haotian glanced at her with a wicked smile and turned to leave. The smile on Tang Bao's face suddenly disappeared. She had pretended in front of Di Haotian so much that even she herself had to believe that it was all true. She didn't mind watching horror movies or playing with her phone. She was only afraid of what she was about to do. Young madam, it's okay if you don't watch horror movies. You can watch something else. Zhang Li comforted her when he saw her standing there in a daze. I'm going back to my room. Okay, I'll send young madam back to her room. At noon, the Tang Bao ate in the reception hall. After the meal, the tableware was removed. Zhang Li and the servant were busy downstairs. They were preparing the bird's nest soup for the Tang Bao. Not long after, the servant ran down in a panic and almost bumped into Zhang Li. Zhang Li immediately scolded, "What's wrong with you? What is this place? Are you allowed to run around like this? What if you bump into young madam?" No, it's young madam," the servant panted. "Young madam said that her stomach hurts." "What?" Zhang Li was so scared that the bowl in his hand fell to the ground and smashed into pieces. The Tang Bao was sent to the hospital and went into the operating room. Di Haotian arrived and directly pushed open the door of the operating room. The doctors inside did not dare to make a sound. On the operating table, the Tang Bao's face was pale, and her forehead was covered with sweat due to the pain. "Bao, I'm here." Di Haotian wiped the sweat off her face with his big hands. His hands were shaking. He had never been afraid of anything, but now, he felt fear. Because in his eyes, any injury that the Tang Bao suffered would be magnified infinitely in his heart. "Di Haotian, I'm sorry, the baby is gone." Tears fell from the corners of the Tang Bao's eyes. "If it's gone, you can have another baby in the future. Don't be afraid, your husband is here, okay?" After giving the Tang Bao an anesthetic, she did not speak anymore and closed her eyes weakly. When the Tang Bao woke up, the operation was already over. Seeing that she was awake, Di Haotian bent down and approached her. "Bao, the baby is gone?" Tang Bao asked in a hoarse voice. Di Haotian's dark eyes paused for a moment. He touched her pale little face and said, "Don't be sad. After your body recovers, we can have another baby." Tang Bao's eyes were hot and tears welled up in them. "Di Haotian, I'm sorry. If you're really worried, you can't hurt your body. That's what I need the most." What else could the Tang Bao say? This was the result of her own actions. She did not even dare to look into Di Haotian's eyes. The more she looked at him, the guiltier and more panicked she felt. In the afternoon, the Tang Bao fell asleep after eating. As soon as she fell asleep, Di Haotian's expression changed. It was as if he had changed into a different person. There was no other expression on his face except coldness. He put on his coat indifferently and walked out of the ward. Outside, the bodyguards were waiting. "He-ju, you stay here. No one is allowed to go in and disturb him. If there's anything, call me." "Yes." After Di Haotian gave his instructions, he turned around and left the hospital. He got into the car expressionlessly. Back at the castle, Di Haotian stood beside the sofa in the hall. His dark eyes swept over the maids, even Li En and Zhang Li. It made them shudder. "Why did the baby die? If you don't tell the truth, I don't mind using tricks. I don't mind letting you know how many tricks I have. Tell me." Di Haotian roared angrily. Everyone present was so frightened that their legs turned to jelly. One of the timid ones fell directly to the ground. Di Haotian walked over. His tall figure towered over her. "Did you do it?" No. "Then what did you do?" Am I that scary?" Di Haotian smiled. But this smile was extremely scary and carried the smell of blood. No. "Were you the first to notice that young madam's stomach was not feeling well?" Di Haotian asked. Yes. Chapter 333. If she was thrown from upstairs to downstairs, she would be crippled even if she didn't die. The maid was so scared that her whole body was trembling. She didn't even dare to shed tears for fear of angering the furious De Houtien. Young Madam finished her lunch and removed the cutlery. Young Madam sat on the sofa in the hall and went back to her room in a while. When she came back, she continued to sit and watch TV. Not long after, young Madam felt a stomachache. I quickly went to find the deputy manager. The maid finished her trembling words. That's it? Nothing else happened? No. Nothing else. Leon took a step forward. Young master, this is my responsibility. It's my oversight. However, I've checked before, including the food in the kitchen. There's no problem. I really don't know why young Madam is in this situation. So you're saying that it's her own problem? De Houtien's face was gloomy. I'm sorry, young master. I'll continue to investigate. Lien lowered his head and said. De Houtien's face was extremely gloomy. He believed that no one would dare to do anything to Tang Bao in his territory. However, Tang Bao was fine before. Before leaving, Tang Bao even took the initiative to kiss him. He was in a good mood. Why did he receive news of Tang Bao's accident not long after he arrived in T? What went wrong? Tang Bao woke up and saw De Houtien in the ward. Of course, she didn't know that De Houtien had left. Moreover, De Houtien didn't ask her why she had a miscarriage during the whole day in the hospital. Tang Bao wouldn't take the initiative to say it either. She thought that it was normal not to take the initiative to say it. However, from a normal psychological point of view, it was abnormal. At the very least, she should explain or wonder why she had a miscarriage. De Houtien saw that she was silent. His dark eyes flashed and he didn't say anything else. In the bungalow. Old Madam, young Madam had a miscarriage and is now in the hospital. Auntie Wang immediately told Yu Songhuan when she received the news. Yu Songhuan breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. However, young master threw a huge tantrum when he returned to the castle. The servants were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. That's normal. He values the Tang Bao so much, so he'll definitely investigate. However, as long as the Tang Bao doesn't say anything, he won't be able to find out, Yu Songhuan said. Will young Madam not say anything? Of course she won't. If she wanted to talk about it, she wouldn't have taken on this matter in the first place, Yu Songhuan said with certainty. That's good. It has nothing to do with old Madam. Tang Bao stayed in the hospital for 2 days before returning to the castle. The main thing was to go home and recuperate. This could be considered as her confinement period. After the miscarriage, even though Tang Bao had accepted the fact that she had a miscarriage, she still felt as if something was pressing down on her heart. After all, this was done behind De Houtien's back, and De Houtien would feel immense pressure. Only when De Houtien wasn't in front of her could she stay normal. At night, she also went to bed early. De Houtien didn't touch her either. He only hugged her to sleep at night. That afternoon, De Houtien went to tea. Tang Bao sat alone on the swing and swayed gently. When she turned her face, she could see the patches of roses. Sure enough, she didn't freeze even on such a cold day. Zhongli ran over in a hurry. Young Madam, why did you run out? It won't be good if young master finds out. You're still in confinement. There's no confinement period for people overseas. You're too nervous, Tang Bao said. Those people overseas look like cows. Their skin is rough and their flesh is thick. How can they compare to young Madam? Go back quickly. Tang Bao wanted to get some fresh air. Seeing how nervous Zhongli was, he must have heard De Houtien's instructions. She stood up and went back. Just as she reached the door, she saw a car coming in. When Tang Bao looked at the car, Zhongli behind him whispered, "It's old Madam's car." Tang Bao's expression changed and she stood there without moving. She couldn't just turn around and leave when she knew that Yu Songhuan was here, right? What good would it do her? Why did she treat Yu Songhuan with such an attitude? In the eyes of outsiders, her miscarriage had nothing to do with Yu Songhuan. Yu Songhuan walked over and looked at Tang Bao's pale face. He asked, "Why are you standing outside? Didn't you just come back from the hospital? It's not good to catch a cold." Tang Bao didn't say anything. Then she went in with Yu Songhuan. On the sofa, Yu Songhuan and Tang Bao sat on the sofa. The servant made tea for Yu Songhuan. Tang Bao couldn't drink tea, so the servant asked her, "Young madam, what do you want to drink?" "I don't want to drink anything." After the servant left, Yu Songhuan looked at the servants standing around and Zhongli, who was not far away. He took a sip of tea slowly and then looked at Tang Bao. After scrutinizing her for a while, he said, "Your complexion looks good. You're still young and don't have a child. When your body recovers, you can still have another child." "I know. Thank you for your concern." Tang Bao's gaze fell on the ground as she said, "I understand how you feel now, but if you can't keep something, it won't belong to you. It won't be fated. For the past 2 days, I've been burning incense and praying to Buddha every day to release the unborn child. He won't blame you, so don't think too much." Other people didn't have a problem with this, but Tang Bao was different. She and Yu Songhuan were both well aware of this. "Also, although you're young, you have to take care of your body at this time. It's cold outside, so don't go out casually. What if you catch a cold? I'm counting on you to give me a grandson." After Yu Songhuan finished speaking, he looked at Zhongli. "How do you do things? You let the young madam go out at this time. Do you not want to stay in the castle anymore?" "Don't blame them. They didn't know when I went out. I just wanted to get some fresh air and didn't stay for long." Tang Bao pleaded for the servants. "Don't do this in the future. If Haoyan finds out, he won't be happy. I won't go out again." Yu Songhuan carefully scrutinized Tang Bao's expression. She was obedient. She probably had some thoughts in her heart. After leaving, she got into the car. Aunt Wang said, "Old madam, don't worry. Looking at the young madam, this matter will be over easily." "Don't worry? I'm still worried about her staying by Haotian's side." "Old madam, you mean, if she can find Di Junbai before, who knows what she'll be like in the future? Since the child is gone by a freak combination of factors, why not let her leave Haotian's side as well? If we don't seize this opportunity, it'll be difficult in the future." "But how can we make the young master and the young madam divorce? The young master even chose to forgive the young madam after she got in the way?" Aunt Wang said, "There will be a way." Yu Songhuan's eyes were calculating. Chapter 334. Did this mean that he had accepted her? But now, she was at a loss. She didn't even care about these things. What she cared about was the child that she had lost and Di Haotian, who she knew nothing about. When she was pregnant, she didn't feel anything. She just felt that it was fun to be pregnant. It was very fresh. Only when she lost it did she realize that she cared. "Young madam, old madam is here to see you," Zhongli walked over and said. She said this to make Tang Bao feel better. Because in the past, everyone knew that Yu Songhuan didn't like Tang Bao. "I know," Tang Bao said these 3 words and went upstairs without saying anything else. When she returned to her room, her phone happened to be ringing. Tang Bao walked over and picked up the phone to look at it. The caller ID showed that it was Wan Malay. Wan Malay still didn't know that Tang Bao had a miscarriage and was hospitalized. She didn't say anything. After hesitating for a moment, Tang Bao picked up the phone. "What's wrong?" "What do you mean, what's wrong? I'm off tomorrow. Can I visit you?" Wan Malay asked. Tang Bao hesitated. At this time, she didn't want Wan Malay to visit her. Hearing the silence, Wan Malay asked, "Is it inconvenient? I have something to do. Can you come later?" Tang Bao asked. "Did something happen?" "It's nothing. Why do I feel like you have something on your mind? You're not in a good mood? Are you really okay?" Wan Malay was doubtful. It wasn't her first day knowing Tang Bao. It was just that a few days ago she went to see Tang Bao and she was in a good mood. Let me tell you, you're pregnant now. Your mood is very important, do you understand? If there's anything, you have to resolve it immediately, Wan Malay said. I had a miscarriage, Tang Bao said. Wan Malay would find out about this sooner or later. What did you say? Miscarriage? Is that what I think it means? The child is gone? Wan Malay couldn't believe her ears. Yes. When did this happen? Wan Malay was too surprised. A week ago. Then why didn't you tell me? If I didn't call you, you wouldn't have told me, right? Wan Malay's Tang Bao didn't know what to say. Tang Bao's you stay in the castle? How did the young master take care of you? Logically speaking, since the castle was so safe and the young master was on guard everywhere, such a situation shouldn't have happened. Did something happen? Tang Bao's Tang's TTT. Even Wan Malay found it strange. Did Di Haotian find it even stranger? TTS hurt T. Tang Bao? It was an accident. I don't know what happened. I had a stomachache after eating, and when I went to the hospital, the child was gone. Tang Bao's eyes were teary. They were slightly red. Why did you have a stomachache after eating? Could it be that someone drugged you? But who in the castle would drug you? The young master wouldn't allow this to happen. Wan Malay was more and more confused. I don't know. Di Haotian wouldn't have thought that she would take medicine and lose the child. He wouldn't have thought that Yu Songhuan would drug her, because the child in her stomach was her biological grandson. Did the young master say anything? Wan Malay was worried about Di Haotian's attitude. He didn't say anything. That's good. There's nothing we can do about it. You need to rest. I know. You really don't need me to visit you. No, I can go to the company when I'm better. After Tang Bao hung up the phone, he heard the sound of someone entering the room. After putting down the phone, he turned around and saw Di Haotian's tall and cold figure. Why are you back so early? Tang Bao was surprised. Who called? Millet. Di Haotian took off his coat and threw it aside. Did you go outside? Tang Bao felt guilty and looked at Di Haotian. Is that why you came back early? Didn't I say that you're not allowed to go out? It seems that I should find a chain to tie you up. Di Haotian's dark eyes flashed coldly. Aren't you being too overbearing? I just went out for a few minutes and wanted to get some fresh air. Why are you chaining me up? I'm not a kitten or puppy. Tang Bao was frightened by Di Haotian's overbearingness. Why didn't you listen to what I said? I'll listen to you next time. Tang Bao's expression was not very good. He turned around and was about to go to the bedroom. However, his waist was tightened and he was hugged. Tang Bao was pressed against Di Haotian's strong chest and was held captive by him. Tang Bao did not move. At such a close distance, he could hear Di Haotian's strong and powerful heartbeat that seemed to be accelerating. Tang Bao felt a little uncomfortable and opened his mouth. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Di Haotian did not say anything and just tightened his arms. For a month, Tang Bao had been staying in the castle. Di Haotian did not go to tea and would accompany him in the castle. Tang Bao also ate and drank. His body was well nourished and he was back to how he was before. It was as if there were no signs of miscarriage in between. At night, when he slept, Tang Bao lay in Di Haotian's arms, but he was not sleepy. His two black eyeballs moved slightly. Di Haotian? Yes? When can I bear your child? Tang Bao asked. His face was a little red. So soon? Tang Bao's face was even redder when he was asked this question. His eyes flickered. Anyway, I'll have to give birth sooner or later. Why don't we give birth now? Not now. Di Haotian did not give him any leeway. Why? My confinement period has already passed. A miscarriage will damage your vitality. You'll have to carry the child for at least 3 months. But I asked Dr. Wang, and she said it's okay. She said that? Di Haotian's black eyes flashed with a cold light. Yes. She doesn't have to stay in the castle tomorrow. Tang Bao was stunned. She just told the truth. You don't have to fire her, do you? Just like the male servant at that time, he also told her the name of the flower out of kindness, but she directly fired him. If you don't know how to observe my body language and figure out my thoughts, you don't have the right to stay here, Di Haotian said mercilessly. Tang Bao knew that Di Haotian's methods had always been ruthless, but she really wanted to say, "Who can figure out your thoughts?" She thought about it but did not say it. She was afraid that Di Haotian would look at her sternly. Chapter 335. After Di Haotian went downstairs in the morning, he asked Lian, "Have the drugs been tested?" "Yes, there's no problem. They're all drugs that won't hurt the fetus," Lian said. Di Haotian didn't say anything and went straight into the dining room. Lian understood Di Haotian's expression. He turned around and went to Dr. Wang's room. Dr. Wang was fiddling with her drugs inside. When he saw Lian, he immediately stood up and said, "Supervisor, you're here. What can I do for you? You've worked hard during this period. Young master said that young madam is now healthy and doesn't need a doctor anymore, so you can leave the castle." "Yes," Dr. Wang said. "Young master cares about young madam, so he'll definitely be more careful. Don't worry about it." Lian spoke kindly, but he was also a well-behaved supervisor. "I won't care. I'm also very sad that young madam lost her baby. I think I can leave. There's definitely no problem with those drugs. In fact, when young madam asked me at the beginning, I also said that these drugs won't hurt the fetus. I just didn't expect." Dr. Wang paused. Lian was surprised. "Young madam asked you about the drugs?" "Yes." "When? What did she ask?" 3 days before the baby was born. Young madam asked me what these drugs were used for. She said that it was easy to have a miscarriage if the drugs weren't used properly. She also asked about the medical abortion. Later, she asked me when the baby would be born. That's all she said." "Young madam asked you about the medical abortion?" "Yes, young madam was probably worried that these drugs would hurt the fetus, so she asked." After Lian left Dr. Wang's room, he went to the dining room and reported what he knew to Di Haotian. Tang Bao could finally leave the castle. Just as he was about to enter the dining room, at the entrance of the dining room, he saw Lian and Di Haotian talking about something. Di Haotian stood at the dining table and fiddled with her breakfast. His face was slightly lowered and his gaze was restrained. His expression couldn't be seen. When Di Haotian raised his head, the unfathomable depth in his black eyes made people not dare to act rashly. "Young madam." Lian turned around and called out, then went down. Tang Bao came back to his senses and walked in. "What's wrong?" When she asked, she looked at Di Haotian. Di Haotian withdrew his sharp gaze and said in a low voice, "It's okay. Let's eat." Tang Bao clearly felt that Lian had said something to Di Haotian just now, and the atmosphere in the restaurant was very oppressive. How could he say that he was fine? "Is it because you don't want to tell me?" "If you don't want to tell me, then forget it." Tang Bao took a sip of the nutritious fruit drink. Di Haotian looked at her with his dark eyes. "I'll pick you up at the company earlier today. Don't keep playing games when you're in the office. Sleep in the lounge in the afternoon." Tang Bao was about to say something. "I'll get someone to keep an eye on you." Tang Bao was simply speechless. What was the difference between this and the time in the castle? "Can I go out for a walk at noon?" "Half an hour." Tang Bao thought that half an hour was fine. It was better than nothing. He nodded. "Okay." Wan Malay was not surprised to see Tang Bao walking into the office, because Tang Bao had told her in advance that he would come to the company today. Wan Malay stepped forward and looked her up and down. "Fortunately, you're the same as before. You haven't lost weight. There are nutritionists in the castle. It's hard for me to lose weight." "You're showing off your wealth to me. Do I need to show off?" Indeed, there was no need. Who didn't know that Di Haotian was so powerful and rich? Tang Bao hadn't been to the company for so long. The company was still operating normally and making money as usual. It really didn't matter if she was there or not. She also knew that this was all under Di Haotian's control. If it were her, she would definitely not be able to do it. The doctor said that you can come to the company? Wan Malay asked. It's just the confinement period. People only stay at home for a month when they give birth. You guys are too nervous, Tang Bao said. I'm not nervous. It's just that you're too young. Don't you need to take good care of yourself? Tang Bao was not proud of Wan Malay's praise at all. He sat in his chair and leaned his body on the desk. His eyes were dull. What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? Wan Malay thought of something and asked, Is it because of the child? A little. If Tang Bao said no, then why was he in a bad mood? She couldn't tell Wan Malay about her and Yu Songhuan. She was afraid that Wan Malay would jump up and scold her. After all, that was Di Haotian's mother. What could she say? Moreover, Yu Songhuan didn't mean to hurt the child. He didn't expect her to get pregnant so quickly. Tang Bao, don't be sad. If you can't keep the child, it must be because you're not fated. You're still young. You can get pregnant at any time. Malay, I can only show my sadness in front of you. I don't even dare to show it in front of Di Haotian, Tang Bao said gloomily. Why? When I was pregnant, he liked the child very much. He must be looking forward to the birth of the child. If I'm sad in front of him, he definitely won't feel good either. Won't he know if you're sad in the company? Wan Malay asked with a dark expression. Tang Bao immediately sat up and looked at Wan Malay nervously. Are you going to tell him? I won't. But if others see it, it might not be the case. Okay. At noon, Tang Bao wanted to go out for a walk. She had been bored for so long. Her body and mood needed to be released. The two of them finally walked into the mall. As they were walking, Tang Bao was stunned when she saw the figure standing in front of her. She was so surprised that she blurted out, Brother Junbai. Di Junbai heard her familiar address and his eyes were filled with a gentle smile. Then he said to Wan Malay, Can I talk to her alone? Wan Malay couldn't say no and retreat far away. I've been paying attention to your company. I hope to see you, Di Junbai said directly. Actually, she hadn't seen Di Junbai since she was released by Di Haotian and bumped into him in the supermarket. Why are you looking for me? Tang Bao asked. Are you okay? I'm fine. Tang Bao nodded. Do you still need to hide it in front of me? I'm not Di Haotian. I won't make things difficult for you. But do you know how worried I was when I heard that you had a miscarriage and was hospitalized? Now that I see you out shopping, I'm much more relieved. Di Junbai stared at Tang Bao's face with concern. There's nothing to be worried about. Di Haotian is very good to me. You don't have to worry. Yes, not only is he good to you, but he's also very domineering. That's why I was so scared that I didn't even dare to call you, Di Junbai said in a joking tone. Tang Bao smiled and changed the topic. It's not a coincidence that you met me, right? You followed me? Chapter 336. Tang Bao didn't say anything. She lowered her eyes slightly. Actually, she didn't want Di Junbai to go to this extent, because she was Di Haotian's wife now. Moreover, Di Haotian disliked her getting close to Di Junbai. If Di Haotian knew that Di Junbai was being so considerate to her, he would definitely be furious. She would also be implicated. However, Di Junbai had good intentions. Tang Bao didn't want to be too heartless. After all, if it weren't for Di Junbai, she wouldn't have married Di Haotian. Therefore, she didn't say anything about Di Junbai's behavior. Tang Bao, is there something on your mind? Di Junbai asked when he saw that Tang Bao didn't speak for a long time. If it's because of the child, you can have another child after you recover. Don't think too much, okay? Yes, I know. Tang Bao smiled. The naughty little boy behind her bumped into her. Tang Bao couldn't see it, but Di Junbai saw it and pulled Tang Bao into his arms. Tang Bao threw herself into Di Junbai's arms in shock. Then, she felt Di Junbai being bumped slightly. She looked down and saw the little boy who was the culprit. He was holding a balloon in his hand and looked innocent. He ran away laughing. Tang Bao immediately broke away from Di Junbai's arms. Thank you. Children are just running around, Di Junbai said casually. Tang Bao looked back at Wan Malay, who was standing in the distance, and said to Di Junbai, Brother Di Junbai, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. I can't keep my friend waiting. Okay, go ahead. Di Junbai nodded with a smile. Tang Bao turned around and ran towards Wan Malay. After following Wan Malay to somewhere else, Wan Malay asked, What did you talk about that took so long? Nothing much. She was just concerned about me. In the Di family, I'm sure my affairs are no secret, Tang Bao said. Wan Malay pursed his lips and said, I don't think he should ask you this. Why? Both of you know that the young master doesn't like the two of you getting close to each other, so it's better to avoid arousing suspicion, right? He can call you to ask, but it won't do him any good if he gets too close. I can see how possessive the young emperor is. I know. Tang Bao lowered his head slightly. But I don't know how to reject his concern. That's why I said he shouldn't. Malay, he and I used to be good friends. I even had a crush on him. If I turn around and turn my back on him, it would make me seem heartless, Tang Bao said gloomily. There's nothing you can do about it. What if the young emperor doesn't like it? You can only side with Di Junbai and Di Haotian. Which side will you side with? Wan Malay asked. Tang Bao was silent. Wan Malay couldn't believe it. You're hesitating? Don't tell me you still have feelings for Di Junbai? She lowered her voice when she said the last sentence. She was afraid that someone would hear her. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking that you can't say whether you're biased or not, right? Di Junbai and Di Haotian's situations are different. Don't think about it. In short, just compare. Which one do you prefer? Nonsense, of course Di Haotian, Tang Bao said. That was her husband, her family. She was closer to him, so of course she would be more biased. What was there to doubt about? The two of them were almost done with their shopping. Tang Bao only had half an hour before she returned to the office. However, Tang Bao didn't know that the scene of her and Di Junbai in the mall just now had been filmed. It was even posted on the internet. The title was, A Handsome Man and a Beautiful Woman. It was as if they were filming an idol drama. It was also written below that made people feel that it was a perfect love in reality. The next morning, Tang Bao was still squatting in the bathroom when she heard the sound of someone rushing in from outside. Then, Wan Malay's loud voice was heard. Tang Bao, are you there? I'm using the bathroom. What's the matter? As soon as Tang Bao finished speaking, the door of the cubicle in front of her was pushed open. Tang Bao felt that she had to cover her lower part with her hand. What are you doing? See for yourself? Wan Malay didn't talk nonsense and handed her the phone. Tang Bao took it in confusion and then saw the news on the browsing page. There were photos of her and Di Junbai face to face, and photos of Di Junbai hugging her. There were also pictures and text but not the truth. Tang Bao was so scared that she panicked and said angrily, What kind of nonsense is this? It's nonsense. Who put it up? How would I know? I already said that Di Junbai shouldn't have come to look for you. Look, something happened, right? What will young Master Di think if he sees this? Wan Malay was worried for her. What should I do? Tang Bao was panicking and confused. She didn't expect things to turn out like this. At that time, Di Junbai was just kind enough to help her. It wasn't like what was written on the internet. Would Di Haotian believe her innocence? What else can you do? Call Di Haotian and explain. Hurry up. You what? I'm afraid of Di Haotian. Besides, how do I explain it to him? Say that I met Di Junbai when I was shopping? Or that I accidentally fell into his arms? Will he believe it? Wan Malay also felt that this explanation was very weak, even if she testified for Tang Bao. But she and Tang Bao were good friends. It would be strange if Di Haotian would believe her. But it's better than not saying anything, right? Tang Bao pulled up her pants and stood in front of the mirror to wash her hands. Juan Malay followed and asked, "What do you mean?" "I can't explain it over the phone. I'll explain it to him in person when he comes to pick me up." "That's fine too. You can tell young Master D when the time comes. I was there at that time." If you don't believe me, you can check the mall's surveillance camera. You can see it anyway. I know. Although she said it so casually, she was very uneasy. She was already uneasy before seeing Di Haotian. Wouldn't she be even more afraid when she saw him? Why did this happen all of a sudden? After Tang Bao washed her hands, she asked Juan Malay, "Do you think Di Haotian hasn't seen these things on the internet yet? Do you think it's possible?" Juan Malay asked. Tang Bao shook her head. She was even more upset. If Juan Malay knew about it, how could Di Haotian not know about it? At this moment, in the office of the highest authority in T, the atmosphere was so tense that it made people keep quiet out of fear. Di Haotian stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the city outside. His black eyes were as cold as ice. The computer screen on the desk was turned on. On it was the news on the internet. The enlarged photo was very dazzling. At this moment, the phone on the desk rang. Di Haotian turned around and his sharp gaze fell on the screen. It was a call from the castle. More than half an hour later, Di Haotian's car stopped in the castle. Lian was standing at the entrance of the hall. When he saw Di Haotian, he immediately nodded and said, "Young Master D." Di Haotian walked into the hall. Chapter 337. Di Haotian stepped forward. His aura was so strong that the maid's legs went weak and her head was lowered. "Raise your head," Di Haotian ordered. The maid raised her head, but her eyes were looking down. She didn't dare to look Di Haotian in the eye. "You can tell me what you know, but do you know the consequences if you lie?" "I know," the maid replied in fear. Di Haotian sat down on the sofa with his long legs crossed. He looked lazy but sharp as he stared at the maid coldly with his black eyes. The maid said nervously, "It's like this. That day, I happened to pass by young Master D's room and saw that the door was open. I thought that the door wasn't closed properly and was about to close it when I saw what happened? I saw that young madam was taking medicine. I didn't know what medicine it was, but I thought that it shouldn't be anything serious, so I didn't take it seriously. It was only after young madam had a miscarriage that I remembered about the medicine. Because I wasn't sure, I didn't dare to say it. But now that I said it, it was because the supervisor was investigating this matter. I didn't dare to hide it, so I said it." Di Haotian's face was gloomy, and the silence in the room was frightening. It was frighteningly oppressive. Suddenly, Di Haotian stood up and kicked the maid in the stomach with his long legs. The maid fell to the ground in pain. She was in so much pain that she couldn't breathe for a long time. She spat out blood from her mouth. Di Haotian was wearing high-end hard leather shoes. With his strength, he could kick someone to death. His black leather shoes were like a hidden weapon that could take someone's life as he walked in front of the maid. "I asked you to tell the truth." Di Haotian was so cold that it was as if he came from hell. "I'm telling the truth. I saw young madam hiding in the room and taking medicine with my own eyes. I didn't dare to say anything," the maid said as she held her stomach in pain. Di Haotian's face was extremely frightening. His black eyes were so deep that they turned red. It was especially frightening. In the distance, Zhang Li was so scared that he quietly left the hall and immediately went to call Tang Bao. While Tang Bao was hesitating in his office about how to explain to Di Haotian later, the phone on his desk rang. It was a call from the castle's landline. What was going on? Why did he call her? She picked up the call. "Hello? Young madam." Tang Bao heard Zhang Li's flustered tone and asked, "What's wrong?" "The young master is back." Di Haotian went back? Tang Bao was puzzled. Didn't he say that he was going to pick her up? "Yes, and a maid told young Master D that she saw you taking medicine in the room." "Young madam, is this true?" "You. What did you say?" Tang Bao was so frightened that he stood up from his seat. He could not believe what he had just heard. Young Madam, after young Master D heard what the maid said, his expression was really scary. I'm calling you secretly now. What should we do? Tang Bao was speechless. She did not know what to do. Before the first wave had subsided, another wave arose. No matter what, Di Haotian went back to the castle to hear from the maid about this matter, which meant that he was very concerned. Tang Bao thought about the day when she took medicine in the room. The door was clearly closed. How could the maid have seen it? Or did she not notice when the maid went in? Or did she forget whether the door was closed or not? Zhang Li, who was on the phone, felt someone behind her. Then, she saw He Ju looking at her with a cold expression. Zhang Li was so scared that she immediately hung up the phone. Hello? Zhang Li? Tang Bao realized that the phone had been hung up. Tang Bao sat on the chair with a pale face. She did not know what was going on in the castle now. Thinking about the expression on Di Haotian's face when he heard the maid's words, Tang Bao was afraid. When Wan Milei entered the office, she saw that something was wrong with Tang Bao. What's wrong? Tang Bao came back to her senses and said in a daze, I'm fine. Why are you still shouting like this? Wan Milei thought that she had just left the office for a while. Nothing could have happened, right? But Tang Bao's current state made people worried, right? Tang Bao suddenly stood up, took her bag, and kicked her hand in. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Young Master D is here. Tang Bao did not say anything and directly left the office. After leaving the company building, Tang Bao stopped a car and got in. Where are you going? The driver asked. Where to? Tang Bao did not know where to go to hide from Di Haotian. Di Haotian would definitely not let her go. What else could she do but hide now? The only place she could go was the Tang family. However, the Tang family found her as soon as Di Haotian looked for her. What was the use of going there? But what was the use of running away? Could she run away for the rest of her life? The car stopped at the seaside. The driver asked speechlessly, Miss, where are you going? We'll reach the sea if we keep going. Tang Bao looked at the vast sea and was also at a loss. What should she do? Tell Di Haotian that the maid was lying? That she did not take any medicine at all? Would Di Haotian believe what she said? Miss, let's go back. The car returned the way it came. Miss, we're here. Tang Bao looked to the side. It was downstairs of her company. This was where she got into the car. Let's keep going. You're not playing with me, are you? It's not like I'm not paying you. Tang Bao was depressed. The driver did not say anything and continued to drive. The car drove all the way outside the castle. Tang Bao looked at the familiar place outside and was very nervous. But since she was back, she could not hide in the car and not get out, right? So she took out the money and gave it to the driver. When she looked up, she saw the driver looking at her in shock and disbelief. What? You live here? The driver asked. Yes. I'm sorry. My attitude was a little bad just now. I'll never do it again. The driver's smile disappeared. Tang Bao was speechless. She pushed the car door open and got out. Tang Bao got out of the car and walked into the castle. She hesitated at the entrance of the hall before going in. She saw Di Haotian sitting on the sofa in the hall, smoking a cigarette. She could not tell what he was thinking, but it made her panic. Especially when she saw the maid kneeling on the ground and vomiting blood, Tang Bao almost wanted to turn around and run away. Her face was pale. But she was already back. She might not be able to run away even if she wanted to. What's going on? Tang Bao looked at the maid and then looked at Di Haotian. When Di Haotian's sharp gaze looked at her, Tang Bao's heart skipped a beat. I thought you had already run out of D City. Why didn't you continue to run? Di Haotian turned to look at her and asked. Chapter 338. However, Di Haotian cut her off forcefully. Is there no other explanation? Tang Bao was stunned. She looked nervously at the maid kneeling on the ground and then at Zhongli, who was standing on the other side with a frightened expression. Why did you run away? Bao, what are you afraid of? Di Haotian looked at her expressionlessly. I didn't want to run away. Tang Bao didn't know how Di Haotian knew that she had run away. However, she didn't have the confidence to question him now. Say what you just said again. Di Haotian's expression didn't change as he spoke. Tang Bao was stunned. She thought that he was asking her. After all, Di Haotian's dark eyes had been looking at her. He Ju said to the maid, "Did you hear what young Master Di said?" The maid kneeling on the ground realized that he was talking to her. She immediately trembled and said, I passed by young Madam's room that day. The door was open. I saw young Madam taking medicine inside. After that, young Madam's stomach hurt. So she saw it? Tang Bao looked at Di Haotian's cold and creepy expression and immediately explained, I didn't take medicine. I'm pregnant. It's impossible for me to take medicine. I didn't. Di Haotian, you believe me, right? Di Haotian's slender fingers tapped the cigarette lightly, and the ash fell into the ashtray. The fall made people panic. He stared at Tang Bao with his dark eyes. Of course I believe you. That's why liars deserve to die. Tang Bao's heart beat wildly. The maid immediately cried out, Young Master Di, I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying. Then she turned to Tang Bao. Young Madam, I really saw you take medicine. It was a white pill. Why don't you admit it? I clearly saw you take it. Why are you talking nonsense? Tang Bao endured the uneasiness of being exposed and said to the maid. Even if you saw it, you shouldn't say it out loud. Don't you know the consequences of speaking out? Looking at the blood at the corner of her mouth, Di Haotian must have been treated cruelly after listening to her words. If that was the case, should he continue? At this moment, Di Haotian put out the cigarette in the ashtray, uncrossed his long legs, stood up and walked towards the maid. She stepped on the maid's neck with one foot, causing her to fall to the ground. Di Haotian looked down from above, as if he was looking at ants. Young master, please spare me, the maid cried in fear. The blood in Tang Bao's body almost stopped flowing. As long as Di Haotian exerted force with his foot, she believed that the maid's neck would be broken immediately. He would kill anyone without batting an eyelid. Di Haotian, what are you doing? Tang Bao was shocked. Since you lied, you have to pay the price for your lies. Even if you're lying, you don't have to do this. Just let her leave the castle. Tang Bao didn't want to kill the maid because of her lies. She knew in her heart that she was lying. Do you think I'll let someone who lied to me leave alive? Di Haotian asked cruelly and ruthlessly. His sharp gaze made Tang Bao stunned. She almost lost her soul. Di Haotian could be gentle, but he could also be cold-blooded. Tang Bao was very clear about his cruel means. He was like this now. Tang Bao thought that Di Haotian would let the maid leave the castle, which was why she refuted the maid's words. What should she do now? Watch the maid die? She couldn't do it. Tang Bao looked at the maid who was stepped on the ground and lowered her gaze. Fear had made her lose her ability to think. Actually, you already believed her words. Why do you have to do this for me? The medicine. I took it. She didn't lie. I was the one who lied. Tang Bao was going all out. Yes. When she agreed to Yu Songhuan's plan, she had thought about the consequences. The consequences if Di Haotian found out about it. Di Haotian's face was as cold as ice. The atmosphere in the hall was so oppressive that it was about to explode in the next second. Lian's expression froze. Zhang Li couldn't believe what Tang Bao said. She didn't believe what the maid said and thought that the maid was talking nonsense. How did it become true now? After the black leather shoe on the maid's neck was removed, the maid was dragged away by the people below. Tang Bao looked at Di Haotian and didn't dare to look at him. You don't want children? No, I want children. Tang Bao immediately explained. Why did you take the medicine? Tang Bao wanted to explain, but what could she do? The more anxious she was, the more she couldn't say it. She couldn't tell the truth. If she said it, Di Haotian would definitely fall out with Yu Songhuan. She could imagine it just by looking at Di Haotian's attitude now. If Di Haotian fell out with Yu Songhuan, Di Haotian's only family member, he would definitely feel bad. Or, I can help you? Tang Bao was stunned. You knew? From the beginning when you were pregnant, you were pretending to be pregnant for me to see. Then, you planned to abort the child. That's why you went to ask Dr. Wang about the abortion. Then, you took the medicine without anyone noticing? Di Haotian moved closer to Tang Bao without saying a word, until he stood in front of Tang Bao. His tall stature pressed down on Tang Bao, making it hard for her to breathe. Although the questions were all questions, they were all spoken in a cold and harsh tone without any doubt. Her jaw was tightly twisted, and she was forced to look into Di Haotian's dark eyes. Who gave you the medicine? Di Haotian? The pain in Tang Bao's jaw was nothing. Her heart hurt more. I believe that no servant in the castle has the guts to buy medicine for you. You haven't been out, so only one person can bring you medicine. Di Haotian looked down at her coldly. Tang Bao had a bad feeling. Wan Malay, why are you looking at me with such a shocked expression? Am I right? Di Haotian asked gloomily. Di Haotian, no, you don't want the child because of Di Ju Bai? Di Haotian cut her off forcefully. I actually believed you and thought that you didn't have any selfishness for him. Di Haotian, I really didn't. I don't have any selfishness for Di Junbai. I'm already married. How can I have anything to do with him? I know it's because of the rumors on the internet, but I explained that I met Di Junbai by accident in the mall and left after a few words. During that time, a little boy bumped into me, and Di Junbai happened to pull me. That's why I looked like that in the photo. Tang Bao explained anxiously. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was afraid that Di Haotian wouldn't believe her. But after she finished explaining, Di Haotian's face didn't soften at all. Even his hand that was holding her jaw was still as strong. Chapter 339. Tang Bao didn't say anything, but she definitely didn't know. The tears in her eyes trembled as she looked at him. Because you took a bullet for me. After saying that, Di Haotian turned and left the castle. Tang Bao stood there in a daze. Was that all she was worth to Di Haotian? Was that all she cared about? Was there nothing else? If she hadn't taken a bullet for him, would he have attacked her? Tears welled up in her clear eyes. She turned around and ran out of the castle. Di Haotian's car just started and drove away, heading towards the European-style gate. Di Haotian! Tang Bao chased after him. The car had no intention of stopping. Tang Bao kept chasing and shouting at the person in the car. Di Haotian, wait, I have something to ask you. What do you mean by that? Am I so worthless to you? Di Haotian saw the person chasing after the car. The driver didn't speed up or stop. But Tang Bao couldn't catch up. Di Haotian was expressionless and cold. His black eyes were even colder. He didn't speak, and the driver couldn't just change the speed. Of course, he saw the person chasing after the car. But he turned his eyes away indifferently. Di Haotian, stop. Tang Bao kept chasing after the car. She chased for a long time outside the castle but still couldn't catch up. She was panting from the chase. Running too fast, Tang Bao lost her balance and fell to the ground. The car didn't stop. Instead, it sped away. The bodyguards behind her drove around her in their cars and left together. Tang Bao's eyes were filled with tears as she looked in the direction where the car quickly disappeared. She didn't believe that Lo Roar didn't know that she was chasing after the car and that she fell. But he pretended not to see it. He was really angry. And very angry. Tang Bao knew this very well. Di Haotian was furious, not only because she aborted the child without permission, but also because of the photos of her and Di Junbai. She did not know how it could be so coincidental that someone had taken a picture of her and Di Junbai, and it was such a misleading picture. Di Haotian, I'm sorry that I can't tell you the truth. Besides this, why do you have to suspect me and Di Junbai? Nothing happened between us. Tang Bao knew that Di Haotian was just too possessive. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this, right? He didn't even listen to any explanations. She even said that she aborted the child because of Di Junbai. Tang Bao returned to the castle. There were still tears on his face. Zhang Li walked over. Young madam, are you okay? Young Master Di is probably just angry for a moment. He'll come back when his anger subsides. Tang Bao raised his teary eyes and looked at Zhang Li pitifully. Will he? I've aborted his child. He won't forgive me. Zhang Li didn't know what to say for a moment. He thought for a moment and asked hesitantly, Young madam, did you really do that? Is there something that you can't say? Tang Bao glanced at Zhang Li and didn't say anything. She went upstairs and returned to her room. Even if she had something that she couldn't say it. After returning to her room, she called Di Haotian. She dialed again and again. He just didn't pick up her call. She sent a message, Di Haotian, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Can we have a new child? This time, I will definitely protect him well. After sending it, the message was like a stone thrown into the sea, silent and unresponsive. After waiting for a long time and not receiving a reply, she sent another message. Di Haotian, please don't be angry. There's really nothing between Di Junbai and me. Di Haotian, why don't you believe me? After sending it out, there was still no response. Tang Bao sat on the sofa dejectedly and held her face with her small hands. She was very confused. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Gu Linshan was still urging Luoluoli to do her homework. This was not Gu Linshan's style at all. He was actually acting as a parent and teaching the child homework. Therefore, although he was supervising at this moment, his expression was very ugly. He was on the verge of losing his temper at any time. Luoluoli had to endure Gu Linshan's cold and dangerous expression almost every day. Therefore, she did her homework very obediently. However, when she encountered something that she didn't know how to do, she would bite the bullet and ask Gu Linshan. Little uncle, Luoluoli said softly. You don't know how to do it again? Gu Linshan's thick eyebrows were almost knitted together. It's so difficult. You don't know how to do it without thinking? Can't you use your brain more? Little uncle, let me tell you, the teacher said that if you know how to do it, then you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, no matter how much you use your brain, you can't do it. Your teacher is bullsh**. Luoluoli opened her eyes innocently and was about to stuff the tip of the pen into her mouth again. When she saw Gu Linshan's fierce gaze, she quickly moved the pen away from her mouth. There was a knock on the door. Gu Linshan was angry and said in a low voice, What's the matter? The servant outside was shocked. Young Master Gu, young Master Di is here. Gu Linshan was slightly stunned. Di Haotian? What was he doing here? Little uncle, is this Tang Bao's husband? Luoluoli asked curiously with her big eyes. Gu Linshan's slender fingers bent slightly and knocked on the desk. He said in a deep voice, Use your brain properly. Even if I use my brain, I won't. Luoluoli was about to retort, but when she saw Gu Linshan's dangerous gaze, she immediately shut up obediently. When Gu Linshan saw that she was obedient, he turned around and left the room. When he went downstairs, he saw Di Haotian sitting lazily on the sofa from afar. He walked into the living room and stood in front of Di Haotian. He watched as Di Haotian collapsed on the sofa with his eyes closed. He could smell the smell of alcohol as soon as he got close. Gu Linshan kicked him. Di Haotian opened his dark eyes. They were cold and sharp. It seems like you drank a lot? Gu Linshan sat down on the sofa. Get me a room. Do you mean you don't have a place to stay? You're the king of D City, and you don't have a place to stay? Gu Linshan smiled leisurely. Did the two of you quarrel again? You're only in this state because of her. Since you're in so much pain, then don't be together. Just break up. Anyway, her heart isn't with you. Di Haotian's drunk black eyes immediately looked at him sharply, like knives. Are you saying that I shouldn't have asked you to divorce, or that her heart isn't with you? I'm not wrong. Anyone with eyes can see the photos online. Di Haotian closed his black eyes. His face was as cold as ice. Shut up. Gu Linshan crossed his long legs and looked smug. Yes, he was naturally smug when he saw Di Haotian like this. Di Haotian sat up and leaned forward. He pressed his slender fingers against his forehead. Wine. Chapter 340. The servant left the room. In the room, Luo was also thinking about the same thing. Why did Tang Bao's husband come to look for her uncle? Was Tang Bao here? Luo put down her pen, walked to the door, opened it, and tiptoed out. When she was going down the stairs, she heard some movement downstairs. Just as she was about to turn the corner, Gu Linshan saw her. He looked over with his sharp eyes and asked sternly like an elder, "Have you finished your homework?" Luo froze. She turned her head and saw Gu Linshan sitting on the sofa drinking with another man. She could only see 1/3 of his body, so she could not see everything. Was this man Di Haotian, Tang Bao's husband? She did not see Tang Bao's husband when she schemed against Gu Linshan last time. I'll do it now, Luo said, then turned around and went upstairs under her uncle's abuse of power. When she returned to her room, Luo sat at her desk again, but she was not doing her homework. Thinking about it, she looked around and didn't see Tang Bao's figure. Only Di Haotian was there. Why were they drinking? Was Di Haotian here to drink with Gu Linshan? Luo thought for a while, then picked up her phone and called Tang Bao. Tang Bao, who was curled up in bed and immersed in sadness, heard his phone ring. He didn't even look at the caller ID before he picked it up and said, "Di Haotian, where are you?" "I'm not Di Haotian. I'm Luo. Luo? Why are you here? Why are you looking for me?" Tang Bao was stunned for a while, then calmed down. "Do you know where Di Haotian is?" Luo asked. "Did you have a fight?" "There was a misunderstanding." It was a long story about Tang Bao. She wasn't in the mood to talk about it. Even if he did, it wouldn't solve her problem. "All right." Luo did not continue asking. "I'm calling you to tell you that Di Haotian is with my uncle." "What? With Gu Linshan? What is he doing there?" Tang Bao asked. "I don't know why he's here. When I went downstairs, I saw him drinking with my uncle. I can't hear anything." Luo finished speaking and asked, "Do you want to come?" Tang Bao was stunned. Was she going to find Di Haotian? Explain to him? How could he explain this? She couldn't explain the baby. However, Di Haotian didn't believe him when he explained what had happened to Di Junbai. Since she knew where Di Haotian was, she didn't need to worry about him, did she? She could wait for him at home. Therefore, she said to Luo, "No need. He'll be back after he drinks. I'll wait for him at home." "All right then. I'll think of a way to get him back as soon as possible." After hanging up the phone, Tang Bao thought about how Luo was going to get Di Haotian to come back as soon as possible. She believed that Luo had some tricks up her sleeve. However, the other party was Di Haotian, the reincarnation of the devil. After drinking some wine, Gu Linshan relaxed and looked at Di Haotian and asked, "Can I ask you a question?" "Just say it." Di Haotian was drunk, but he was only interested in wine, so he wasn't very interested in Gu Linshan's question. "Why is it that every time you have a conflict with her, you're the one who runs out and not her?" Gu Linshan calmly looked at Di Haotian's cold face. Di Haotian held the wine glass in his hand, the veins on the back of his hand popping out. "If you don't want to see her, you can just drive her out. The castle is yours. Why should you leave?" Gu Linshan continued to ask. The veins on Di Haotian's hand popped out even more, and his face became even more frightening. Little uncle, this is bad. This is bad. Luoluali rushed into the hall and howled. Gu Linshan frowned at the noise. Luololi ran to Gu Linshan and said, Little uncle, something big has happened. What's the matter? Gu Linshan asked impatiently. Have you finished your homework? It's even scarier than homework. There are cockroaches in the room. Luololi said, pretending to be serious. Little uncle, you have to believe me. There really are cockroaches, and they're coming in groups. As Luololi spoke, she paid attention to Di Haotian's expression, hoping that the groups of cockroaches would scare Di Haotian away. Weren't cockroaches the natural enemies of the rich? Was it because they were particular about cleanliness? Di Haotian put the glass in his hand on the coffee table, stood up, and left. Luololi watched Di Haotian leave, and her face immediately lit up. Gu Linshan saw her proud face and asked, What the hell are you doing? Little uncle, did you know? I just called Tang Bao, and Tang Bao is waiting for Di Haotian at home, so I had to help her. After all, she helped me last time. Luololi paused and thought of something. She looked fearfully at Gu Linshan's cold eyes and immediately shut up. Why did you stop talking? Gu Linshan asked. Luololi shook her head and shut her mouth. Do you think Di Haotian will be scared by your little tricks? Gu Linshan sneered. Yes, didn't you see that he left? Gu Linshan held his forehead with his hand. He felt that talking to Luololi made him even more tipsy. Little uncle, are you drunk? Let me help you back to your room. Luololi reached out and hugged Gu Linshan's arm. Gu Linshan averted his gaze and looked at the fair hand on his arm. He didn't want to look at her face again, but her hand was very beautiful. How would it feel to touch it? Gu Linshan frowned. What was he thinking? He shook off Luololi's hand and went upstairs alone. Luololi stood there in a daze. Why did she feel that her little uncle was unhappy? Wouldn't it be better to help him back to his room? What if he accidentally fell down after getting drunk? Luololi was still worried. Her little uncle was so good to her. No matter what, she had to help him when he couldn't take care of himself. Luololi thought obediently. Therefore, not long after Gu Linshan went upstairs, she came back to her senses and ran to Gu Linshan's room. Standing at the closed door, Loli Luo hesitated for a moment before knocking on the door. Uncle? Little uncle, can you hear me? Luololi put her ear to the door, but didn't hear anything. Of course, she couldn't hear anything. Gu Linshan went into the bathroom to take a shower after entering the room. He reeked of alcohol. On the other hand, Luololi was wondering if her uncle had fallen down in the room alone. She knew that it was difficult to do things well when drunk. He couldn't even walk properly. Therefore, Luololi pushed the door open and went in. After Luololi entered the room, she looked for Gu Linshan. But after looking around, she didn't see Gu Linshan and didn't hear anything. She didn't hear the sound of water in the bathroom until she entered the bedroom. Luololi wondered if her little uncle had fallen down in the shower. After all, she only heard the sound of water and nothing else. Chapter 341. Then, the bathroom door opened just like that. Gu Linshan walked out of the bathroom and was stunned when he saw the people standing outside. Luololi screamed when she saw Gu Linshan. Ah! She turned around and covered her eyes with her hands. Gu Linshan frowned at her shrill scream. Shut up, he shouted. The scream stopped abruptly, but Luololi's hands were still covering her eyes. Her heart was beating wildly. Who let you into my room? Gu Linshan asked coldly. I was worried that you would fall, so I came to check on you. I didn't expect this. Gu Linshan's face was cold. Gu Linshan looked at Luololi. Gu Linshan's cold eyes were frightening. He walked closer to Luololi and stood behind her. Turn around. Luololi turned around obediently, but her hands were still covering her face. Take your hands off. No. If you talk back to me again, I'll send you back to your mother. Luololi was most afraid of such threats. She immediately took her hands off her face. Her eyes kept darting around. She was too timid for her age. Luoli. Huh. What do you think of me? Gu Linshan's dark eyes flashed as he asked. Luoli was stunned. Why did Gu Linshan ask her this question? Luoli thought of something and suddenly realized. Little uncle, you like a girl, right? Is it Tang Bao? Although there's nothing wrong with liking other girls, Tang Bao is already married. Little uncle, you can like other girls. As she spoke, Gu Linshan's face darkened. Little uncle, did I say anything wrong? I'm telling the truth, Luoli said timidly. You just have to answer my questions. You don't have to ask anything else. Gu Linshan controlled his temper. Little uncle is very good, Luoli said firmly. How do you know? Look carefully and then answer me. Gu Linshan's behavior was like a big bad wolf who deceived little girls. However, he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his actions. Forcing Luoli, uncle? Luoli hesitated. How many times do you want me to repeat myself? Gu Linshan frowned unhappily. Luoli bit her lips pitifully. Why are you being so fierce? Luoli thought that Gu Linshan was very good. But in such a situation, she would also feel embarrassed, right? If not for the fact that her face was too yellow, he would have been able to see the layers of red on her cheek. Is that so? Gu Linshan felt a little better. He's even better than the handsome guys in the magazines. What kind of magazines are you reading? Gu Linshan's expression changed. It's just a normal magazine. Luoli thought it was strange that Gu Linshan would suddenly ask about this. Wasn't he asking about himself? Couldn't he just say that he was good? Gu Linshan looked at her coldly. Then, he approached Luoli. Luoli stepped back in fear and stammered, "What's wrong with you?" Behind her was the wall and in front of her was the terrifying Gu Linshan. There was no way she could escape. Are you afraid? Gu Linshan's entire person was extremely oppressive. A dark shadow loomed over the little girl who was being bullied by the big bad wolf. You're my uncle. I'm not afraid. Luoli tried to calm her wildly beating heart as she spoke. Gu Linshan was amused by the way she was lying to him. He reached out his hand and said in a low voice, Luoli is really young. Very good. Uncle, my face is so ugly. Why do you think I'm good? I'm very ugly. You should stay far away from me. Luoli's body stiffened and she did not dare to move. I'm your uncle. I'm different. Luoli was speechless. She did not understand. She was so ugly now. Boys and girls who took one look at her did not want to take a second look at her. It was even more impossible for boys to like an ugly monster like her. They avoided her as if she was an extremely smelly thing. But why did Gu Linshan say that? Was he really that hardcore? Uncle, you can't do this to me. You're the one who's like this. How can you blame me? Gu Linshan grabbed her shoulders and lifted her up. She was so frightened that she closed her eyes tightly. Her voice was choked with sobs. Uncle, Gu Linshan paused. His tone was very cold. Uncle is teaching you that it's very dangerous. Do you understand? Luoli opened her eyes and saw Gu Linshan's cold face. She did not understand his change in attitude. But she did not dare to hesitate and replied, I understand. I won't come to your room again. Gu Linshan released his hand and turned around. Get lost. Luoli was pardoned and hurriedly ran away. Gu Linshan reached out and pinched the bridge of his nose. He really drank too much. Luoli went back to her room. She clutched her chest and panted. She felt that she was in danger just now. It was too scary. Luoli fell on the bed and was lost in thought. She did not like the feeling in her room just now. Chapter 342. Gu Linshan, who was wearing pajamas, walked into Luoli's room. When he saw Luoli lying on the bed and yawning, his face darkened. Are you done with your homework? Luoli was so scared that she sat up. I'll do it now. Tang Bao wasn't sleepy at all. It wasn't enough to wait for Di Haotian in the room, so she went downstairs to wait in the hall. She sat on the sofa and watched TV, but her heart was actually on Di Haotian. She couldn't watch TV, and she couldn't even sit on the sofa. After a while, she stood up and looked outside the door to see if there was a car coming back. Zhang Li walked over. "Young madam, why don't you go back to your room and sleep first? It's already midnight. Your body can't take it like this. Do you think Di Haotian will come back?" Tang Bao asked Zhang Li, but it also seemed like she was asking herself. "Young madam, go back to your room and sleep first. I'll tell you when the young master comes back." Zhang Li wasn't sure if the young master would come back. After all, the matter of the child was a big deal. Anyone would be angry if it happened to them. Not to mention the powerful young master who could cover the sky with one hand. Tang Bao didn't say anything. Luo Luoli clearly told her that Di Haotian had already left Gu Linshan's residence. He should have arrived at the castle long ago. Why hadn't she seen his figure yet? Tang Bao stood at the door for a while, then returned to the hall and sat on the sofa. She stared blankly at the TV. After 12 o'clock, Tang Bao knew that Di Haotian definitely wouldn't come back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until now. Tang Bao stood up and left the hall. She went upstairs and returned to her room in low spirits. At this time, she had just taken a shower. Tang Bao, who came out of the shower, wanted to see if Di Haotian had returned. As soon as she walked out of the room, she saw Zhang Li with a nervous expression. She had just walked out of the room she used to live in. "What's wrong? Is Di Haotian back?" Tang Bao asked. "Young madam, this..." Zhang Li looked troubled. She didn't know whether she should say it or not. Seeing Zhang Li's strange expression, Tang Bao didn't wait for her to speak and walked towards the room by himself. The door was not closed. After Tang Bao walked in, he saw Di Haotian leaning against the headboard and the enchanting woman. "Young Emperor, your castle is so big and beautiful. Do you want me to serve you?" The woman was very happy. Di Haotian raised his cold black eyes and glanced at Tang Bao. Then, he closed his eyes again and let the woman do whatever she wanted. Tang Bao could not believe what he was seeing. Di Haotian didn't come back so late because he was with this woman? And to bring such a woman back to the castle? How could Di Haotian treat her like this? Seeing that woman, Tang Bao was furious. He rushed forward and grabbed the woman's hair. "Ah! Let go!" The woman screamed in pain. Tang Bao didn't let go. She dragged the woman to the ground by her hair. There was still a small handful of hair left in her hand. She patted it away in disgust. Still angry, she raised her hand and continued to slap the woman's face. However, as soon as she raised her hand, it was caught. Tang Bao was stunned. She turned around and saw Di Haotian, who had gotten out of bed at some point, looking down at her gloomily. "As a wife, you should be tolerant of women whose husbands are outside." After that, he pushed Tang Bao away forcefully. Tang Bao's eyes were filled with bitterness. She asked in disbelief, "You have a woman outside?" "Di Haotian, I can have any woman I want. I don't need you to question me." Di Haotian was extremely gloomy. Tang Bao felt cold all over, including her heart. It was as if it was being torn apart. However, she remembered that Di Haotian wasn't like this in the past. It was because she aborted the child that he was angry. So she suppressed her emotions and said, "Di Haotian, we can have another child." "You said it, we can have another child. I'm willing to have a child for you." Di Haotian smiled coldly. He turned around and walked to the woman who had fallen to the ground. He asked condescendingly, "Are you willing to have a child for me?" "Of course I'm willing. I don't ask for a status. I'm willing to give birth to a child for young Master D." The woman said happily in her heart. In D City, if she could give birth to a child for the king of D City, why would she need a status? If she had a child, she would immediately rise to a first-class status. Even if she was just a woman who was nothing, if she had such a close relationship with Di Haotian, others would follow her lead. Therefore, no one could ask for more. Di Haotian looked at Tang Bao coldly. Did you hear that? You're comparing me to her. Tang Bao held back the tears in her eyes. Di Haotian approached Tang Bao. His cold black eyes pierced her, and his words were cruel. You're not as good as her. Tang Bao's body swayed, and her face turned pale. Di Haotian, can you forgive me about the child? I swear, such a thing won't happen again. I didn't know that you were also a ruthless person. You said you didn't want the child and you didn't want it. Tang Bao, have you always been pretending in front of me? Di Haotian's knife-like gaze scraped Tang Bao's face. Tang Bao's face hurt. Her eyes were filled with tears as she looked up at Di Haotian. Do you really think that I'm such a person? Yes. I'll give you another chance. Why did you abort the child? Di Haotian asked. I can't say it. Tang Bao was in a difficult position. She was very anxious, but she couldn't say it. She was so anxious that tears fell down her cheeks. You can't say it? Di Haotian's face was frighteningly dark. Di Haotian, let's have another child, okay? Just take it as giving me a chance to turn over a new leaf, Tang Bao said while enduring the pain. Di Haotian looked at her innocent face. He was so irritated that he wanted to be violent. Therefore, he reached out and grabbed Tang Bao's arm. Under Di Haotian's iron palm, her slender arm seemed like it could be broken at any time. Tang Bao not only hurt on her skin, but also her bones and tendons. Didn't you say that you want to have another child? I'll give you a chance now. Di Haotian exerted force in his hand and threw Tang Bao directly onto the bed. Tang Bao fell on the bed. Although the bed was soft, the impact made her dizzy and she saw stars. She struggled to sit up. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.